Ready to call a meeting to order of the Tennessee Auctioneer Commission. Donna, you want to do the roll call?
I will. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Marvin Alexander.
Here.
Bobby Colson.
Here.
Gary Cunningham.
Here.
Jeff Morris. And Howard Phillips.
Here.
Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Is there a statement or something you wanted to read prior to the beginning of the meeting?
Been advised by legal counsel that the beginning of each meeting I should read into the record how notice of this meeting was given. So this meeting's date, time, and location have been noticed on the Tennessee Auctioneer Commission's website, included as part of this year's meeting calendar since August the 8th of 2012. The calendar was updated on February the 1st of 2013 to reflect the new meeting room number. And additionally, the agenda for this month's meeting has been posted on the Tennessee Auctioneer Commission's website since January 23rd, 2013, and was updated on January the 30th of 2013. Also, this meeting has been noticed on the Tennessee.gov website since February the 1st of 2013.
Thank you. Has everyone had a chance to review the agenda? And if so, do I hear a motion to adopt?
I make a motion to adopt.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And do we have a motion to adopt Robert's Rules of Order?
I move we do.
Do we have a second?
I'll
You
second.
second by Mr. Cunningham. All in favor?
Aye.
Everyone had a chance to look at the minutes from the last meeting?
Yes, sir.
Do we have any changes or additions or any comments on it? Entertain a motion to adopt the minutes of the last meeting.
I'll make a motion.
All in favor?
Second.
Oh, second. Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. We have a auctioneer application.
Yes, if I could, I will introduce Mr. Danny Lewis, James D. Lewis, Jr. He's here today and ask him to come up to the microphone right there at that table in case the commission members have any questions for you.
Looks
And
like
I'll
that's
explain
tab 2 on our...
Yes, it is tab 2. Mr. Lewis is asking for a waiver request today, a waiver. As an applicant, he was licensed as an apprentice auctioneer from September the 4th, 1984 through September the 4th, 1985. His sponsor during that time has passed away, so he is requesting a waiver from producing those apprentice logs back during that time. The only information we had on him from that far back, we've copied on that front page of his tab 2, showing that it's just an old index card from years ago, showing that he was an apprentice from for that 1 year from 84 to 85. So the other information under his tab 2 there is a letter from him requesting the waiver, his application, and I think he has a letter with him today based on some experience that he had.
Okay, Mr. Lewis, would you like to tell your story?
Well, first of all, thank y'all for seeing me. I worked the sale since I was 11. My family's had barns in around Tennessee, Texas, Clemens Antiques, Roberts Antiques and Auction. So I've worked the floor up, tear down sales, put sales together, clerk sales, haul it, buy it, pick it, and still do. except for the auction block, of course, because I'm not licensed in the state. I've been living down in Boca Raton, Florida, and family's getting old and needed me home, and so I've come home, and I'd like to possibly pick up where I left off, and I'd love to open a little sale maybe back in Chattanooga. I have a lot of people that like to come to sell. I know my way around the furniture. I'm an antique guy, and that's what I grew up in. I probably worked 3 sales last week. I know I don't have any good paperwork here on me. I went to, I drove to show some effort. I went to the Auctioneer school, I guess after I came up here late December. I went and picked up a packet, and I thought, you know, I'd take the retest, just see how I do. And of course, after I got it, I got home, studied it, took the practice test, and made 82, and then made an 88. And I thought I was ready to take the test, and then I realized because I didn't read the online part of it, I needed to come here first before I do that. It wasn't even really technically necessary. But anyway, that's what I've done, and I got a letter from my uncle. Everybody that a lot of the folks that I've been involved with in the sale have kind of passed away. It seems like I've lost a lot of folks. My Uncle Robert wrote a letter that would vouch for me as far as he's one of the folks still living that saw me on the block, saw me working. I'm a good auctioneer. I think I'm good for the state of Tennessee. Honorable. People like me, and I trade clean. I don't know what else you do with that. That's kind of where I'm at, so I guess really kind of at your discretion on what to do with me. I'd like to get forward and like to go to work. I'm not here to play. I don't want an auctioneer's license to just say I've got one. I'd like to go to work. And if any of y'all are hiring, I'd love the chance to work for you.
So it's been
25 years. How long have you been? 25 years.
You know, what you're asking is you want to take you want to be able to go and take the auctioneer's test, right?
Well, I just thought it wasn't required, but I just thought I would because I hadn't pulled it up, looked at it, studied it.
No, I'm talking about.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. To get your license. Who was your sponsor back in '84?
Mr. Samples, Warren Samples, from Cleveland, Tennessee.
Went to Lloyd Neville's auction school.
Yeah, they tried to hire me there. Of course, I grew up in the antique business, and I didn't know anything about cows or cattle, and I was actually they tried to recruit me out of school to work there, but I thought, well, Lord, I don't know anything about cows. So my uncle had I guess we had probably one of the first antique malls in Saudi Days of Tennessee. We didn't even know what it was. We just had an old red food store. It was good. And had a sale there the first and third Saturday of every month. And one day I just took some duct tape and started marking off some spots. And next thing you know, we were in an antique mall. We were just trying to figure out how to eat.
What is the time period that an apprentice license or any other license can elapse and lay dormant and then come back alive?
I'm not sure if there's a statute getting a clearance there, but your rules do state to be an auctioneer, you have to have served as apprentice for a 2-year period, and it appears he's only been an apprentice for 1 year.
What would you do?
Well, I think back at this time, and I don't know exactly when that law changed, because I got my license and a little bit before that. I'm not sure when that changed. You had to be an apprentice for 2 years, or if you went to school, you could be an apprentice for 1 year and then take your auctioneer test. I'm not exactly sure when that law changed.
In 111, subsection O says that any individual who would otherwise qualify for the auctioneer's examination by January 1st, 1984, need complete only 1 year.
Okay,
This appears
that was
to be
about when it
after
changed.
that.
Yeah.
Well, No, I want to ask you one more question. In order to take an auctioneer's test, do you not have to have an apprentice license?
In good standing, that's
It appears, I think you have to have served as an apprentice for 2 years. Yeah, any individual who desires a license as an auctioneer submits an application with proof that they've reached 18 years of age and served as an apprentice auctioneer under the supervision of a licensed full-time auctioneer for a period of 2 years, is how the statute is worded.
So you would have to have an apprentice license at that time, right?
You would have to have served as an apprentice for 2 years. It doesn't actually, the way it's worded, it doesn't say that they have to have an active apprentice license, but they have to have served for that 2-year period. Or if it was before January 1st, 1984, 1 year it appears.
But then under today's laws, you got to have the 2 years in the logbook.
But if you were gonna take the test now, you'd come underneath today's law.
Right, that's what he's saying. That's
You
what
would
he's
come underneath the laws back at that.
right,
84.
right. And that's what he's asking for.
He's asking for a waiver of that 1 year, that lack of 1 year apprenticeship.
Well, in the logbook.
Laws, yes.
And the license has been expired since 85, right? I think that's what kills us right there.
I think one of the things that hurts us is it's 25 years.
I think you're right.
I'd like to be able to vote for you, but 25 years, I can't do that.
I don't think there's anything that says we can.
I don't think we can really take the regular test, you know. I don't think we can do that because that hasn't been done that I know of. I know we've waived some log requirements where people brought ads and sale brochures, you know, where they couldn't produce a log.
That we're still licensed, though.
Yeah.
The license hadn't expired. I think that's what's got our hands tied on this, Mr. Lewis, is with your license having been expired as long as it has. I just really don't think we have any leeway to do anything.
You do have a rule that says a licensee that's delinquent in the renewal of a license for 2 years or more shall reapply for licensure and shall satisfy all requirements
Right.
for retaining such license.
That's the one
So
that
where
gets
your
us
rule
right
is.
there, right?
So, where am I?
I think you need to.
I think you're gonna have to go back to the
Yeah, I
apprentice.
think you're going to have to find somebody to sponsor you and
Okay,
basically start over
from apprenticeship. Okay.
with a law that Ms. Crop just read there a while ago. That if it's less than 2 years expired, we have some leeway to do some things, but when it's
Right.
over 2 years, we don't have any leeway to do anything.
Okay, well, that's what I need to know so I can go forward.
Well, my suggestion would be, immediately go go to school and get for 2 weeks, and then you're ready to go to work when you get that apprentice license.
The school, the same school I went to, or the continuing education school, or
No, you have to go to,
Go to
80 hour.
80
regular
hour
school.
course.
I'll do that again. So basically, I'm just starting over like I've never.
With it being expired, as long as it has, I don't think we have any choice with that law.
I don't know that that's exactly right now. I'm not.
Well, yeah, if he's already went to school, he's done had your schooling. Yeah, you done had your schooling.
I've already been to that.
I think you need a sponsor.
Okay.
I think you need a sponsor, and then go take a test.
Well, I think they're probably gonna have to take the, like a.
Apprentice test.
Yeah. continuing, same, I guess, I don't know what they call it, whether they call it continuing education or,
Well, within these 2 years after he gets his license.
okay, yeah, all right.
Yeah.
But
But as far as the preschooling, you've already got that.
I guess take 80 hours again.
Yeah.
Where'd you get your 80 hours education?
Telehoma.
Nashville auctions.
Yeah, the Nashville Auction
Okay.
School.
So you can get a
Lloyd Neville's, or what's that?
No, that was somebody else
That
back
was-
in. That was.
I was trying to pull in names out
that
of
was.
my memory.
Are you talking about? We're talking about back in
84.
'84.
Right. Yeah, I was here. I spent 2 weeks in classroom there where they had the classes at the old cattle barn.
That was a professional school of auctioneering, I believe.
Yeah.
Lloyd Neville's and.
Yeah, that's the name I
What was the
remember.
other guy's name? Wendell that was with him. You remember? Gosh, I am showing my age, aren't I? I started as a small child.
Yeah, me too.
But yes, I remember that school well.
So what we just said is that you, Marvin, you said he can go take his apprentice test?
I didn't say that, but I mean, I thought you and Bobby said that.
Yeah, I think.
No, I didn't
he's
say
just-
that.
He's got to go start and serve his apprenticeship now.
He needs to find him a sponsor.
Well, how can he serve the apprenticeship if he don't go take his test?
Well, I know he's got to do that, but I mean, he's going to need a sponsor when he takes his test.
Right.
I would make a motion, we don't have the right to waive his apprenticeship.
Well,
I'm sorry, what? I'm sorry.
I'd make a motion, we don't have the right to approve and waive the, him going on and taking a regular test. The principal auctioneer test, or not a principal, but
apprentice.
he can take the apprentice test, for instance, without taking 80 hours.
Okay.
Do we hear a second? Guess a motion. I guess I can second it, can
Yeah.
I? Second. Now, when you're saying the 80 hours, you're talking about the
The
preschooling.
preschool, he doesn't
Right.
have to take, but
Right.
he comes under all the guidelines of the new rules.
Yeah, from that point on, he's got to
Yeah,
go to work for another auctioneer and
right.
take your test and do your logbook and
The
all
school
that.
he went to was approved at that time.
Yeah, it's just like getting a high school diploma. It's still good 25 years later or whatever.
So I am not so clear on your motion and your second. You said that he can go take an apprentice test now,
Right.
and then after he passes his test, he has to get a sponsor, take his test.
I'd go find me a sponsor first, if it's me.
Well, you have to, I guess.
Yeah.
If you're gonna work. Then he's gonna take apprentice test and work for 2 years.
Right.
Under an auctioneer.
Right.
Well,
And have to do his continuing education.
and, it would be up to you all. He has to provide proof of a 2-year period. It would be up to you all to consider whether you would count the year that he's had. He doesn't have logs, but,
Well, with it being expired and everything, I don't think that.
The only thing is, you would approve that if he came back.
Yeah.
I don't think you can prove that right now.
right, no, I'm just saying as to whether it's a 1 or 2 year apprenticeship from now forward would determine on whether you wanted to.
Well, that's what was going through my head, because you gotta have a 2-year apprentice.
No, he still wants to serve a 2-year apprenticeship and do his 80 hours, or not 80 hours. What do you got to do? The 30 hours in the first 2 years, or whatever it is, and do his logbook, and just like anybody else.
But does that year apprenticeship from 1984 to 85 count?
No.
No.
It won't count when he, okay. So a full 2 years.
Do you want me to add that to your motion?
Yeah, I don't think that's the only way to do it, because when those licenses was out over 2 years, they were gone.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Can you restate the motion?
Motion.
Yeah, read the motion.
A motion to deny the waiver request for the apprentice auctioneer exam. He can deny the waiver request as presented. He can take the apprentice exam without additional education and must serve a 2-year additional apprenticeship before he's eligible for an auctioneer.
So basically, he's got to take that 2-year apprenticeship. That's what we're voting on. Okay, I'm clear.
Right.
Wait, he has to pass the test first.
Huh?
He has to pass the French test first.
Right. Right. And serve a 2-year apprenticeship.
Yeah. All right,
And take his continue to do his logbook, his continuing education.
He can't get his apprentice license until he passes the test.
Well, am I not already in a past test apprentice that just would be starting his 2-year apprenticeship?
No, you still got to take it. It's been expired too long. You still got to retake the test and do your.
I've studied for it, so.
Do your continuing education and all that. You need to find you a sponsor.
Okay.
To my way of thinking, find you an auctioneer to work for, and take your test.
Yes, sir.
And do your 2-year apprenticeship, and go from there.
Okay. In order to take that test, the way that I read this application, I'm going to have something notarized, because they won't let me. You can't just go down there and take the test.
You got to go to school for 30 hours. When you do that,
Oh, so I got to go 30 hours of school first.
No, not prior to taking the test. You know, you'll have to take your continuing education.
They will accept a letter from me saying that the commission waived or accepted his prior 80 hours
Okay.
and that
He didn't have 80 hours.
he did have 80
Yeah.
Yes, I did.
Yeah, he graduated.
Started
Yeah.
a year, okay.
Actually 2, but anyway, I can't prove it.
But the testing center will accept that, and then they'll allow you to sit for the exam based on that. We've done that in the past.
Okay.
I call for the question. Have we voted?
That question's been called for. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Yes.
We have 3, 4, and 1 against. All right.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Yes, sir. Thanks. Appreciate that.
Figure out how to get back to the beginning. didn't you? All right, Grant Carey,
Yes.
determine eligibility. Donna?
Yes, sir. If you'll look under tab 3 for Mr. Grant Carey's information. He was a licensed Tennessee auctioneer from July 22nd, 1996 through July 31st, 1998. He moved out of state and continued then to hold a license in Indiana. He's requesting a waiver for an additional 30-hour education, proof of apprenticeship, and possibly retesting. He returned to Tennessee in 2004 and therefore not eligible for reciprocity because he's a resident here now. So has a written request you'll see there on page 2 and 3, and his additional certificates and proof of licensure in Indiana begins on page 6 in his packet. So
I also have one more piece of paper here, if I can add that.
okay, well you'll
This was for continuing education. It was a 6-hour conflict management at Lipscomb.
Okay, that was September the 25th of 2012. We took this, if you want to pass that around.
licenses, and I have all of the whole transcript, but I just graduated from Emory University with a degree in criminal justice.
Okay.
And I think there's a rule or something that says that if you have college, that could be considered in lieu of continuing education.
If it's got to be approved by us.
When did you move back to Tennessee?
2004.
If you're going to get in the auction business, criminal justice, probably something good to have a degree.
Well, there's a lot of legal aspects to auction and safety, public safety as well.
I think you gotta have a degree in the real estate or the auctions or something. I don't even know if they have a degree. Would have to apply.
If you have a degree in real estate, it cuts it. Your real estate.
No business degree, maybe, or something.
Must be a new law.
If you graduate from college in real estate, and real estate was your degree, you don't have to go to real estate school. You can just take your test and get your license, or you could. That was a mistake.
It is.
It is?
It is.
Okay.
I think there's real estate, finance, there's a list of similar majors that you don't have for your assistant broker's license. You still have to go to school for your broker.
Right. Mr. Chairman, what are we doing?
I'm just kind of taking it all in right here at the moment, hoping somebody else say something, so.
What have you been doing since 2004 in Tennessee?
Well, I worked at the Hilton as a chief engineer. So
But I mean, you haven't been doing anything in the auction biz, working for any auction companies or anything?
No, because I've not had my license since my license expired. What I think main thing I failed to do was there's allowance. You can basically put your license in park, until you come back, and that's not retire it, but just inactive status. And that's where, as far as my process, error was made, is I should have put my license in inactive status, and then I could have just reenacted it with very little activity. But
you haven't had any kind of auctioneer license since 2004?
Oh yeah, I've been an Indiana licensed auctioneer in Indiana since 1995.
You still hold those licenses?
Yeah, I still have that.
Oh, okay, I thought you.
Current. It's doesn't expire till 2016.
What I saw.
So I've got a valid Indiana auctioneer's license. What I have done recently is I've got a business license from Davidson County so that I could do business, pay my taxes, those kinds of things. I did go to continuing education in Indiana, so I could maintain that license. So my continuing education is current.
And then reciprocate with Tennessee?
Yes,
I think so.
Indiana reciprocates with Tennessee.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he lives here now, so.
But yeah.
Yeah, he came to us originally
But he's still.
for reciprocity, but because he has a Tennessee driver's license, I think, showing residency here, he couldn't apply for qualify for reciprocity.
Although that doesn't apply, it still demonstrates that I'm still maintaining an active license and am involved in auctioneering. And what I've done since living here in Tennessee is that I've mostly done facility management type work. And right now I work actually in jail and prison ministry, and I want to use my auctioneer's license, auctioneer skills, to raise funds for our ministry work. And while I can, through the exemption for charities, I want to be able to offer the auctioneering service to other charities, or and then also generate some revenue for either for myself or for our organization. And then, with a facility management background, I like to use auctioneering, excuse me, for like asset liquidation. Like if a business, if they have, leftover materials related to facilities, auctioneering is a good service that's not always, people aren't aware of it as much that they could use that, and it could coincide with facility services. So,
According to the Tennessee law, what does he stand?
He needs to take the test. That's the only thing he'd have to do, I think. I would make a motion, we allow him to sit for the exam and recognize, that he's been in business in Indiana all the time.
also, I lived in Missouri. After I left Tennessee, we moved to Missouri, and I had an auctioneer's license in Missouri. I went to Missouri Auction School while I was there in June of '01. I had a little auction barn outside of St. Louis that I worked, for a while.
Missouri doesn't have a state law.
Right, they don't have a state law.
All you gotta do is go to the county courthouse and buy, or sue.
Correct. But I was
St. Louis do you live in?
Maryland Heights.
Is that, what county is that?
It's St. Louis County.
Well, St. Louis is divided up North County, South County,
That's
West
in
County.
west. Yeah, near the river, Missouri River, St. Charles.
Yeah, I know. I used to live in St. Louis.
Did you say you went to Missouri Auction School?
Yes.
Did you complete the?
Got a diploma in there.
I thought I did.
You probably do. You got a lot of stuff in here.
It's on page 10 of your,
I think, did it say 2001?
yes.
That's what I thought.
And I mean, I didn't send everything, but I mean, I've got membership where I was in the National Auctioneers Association. I drove a car down to the Nashville Auto Auction. I was in the Indiana Auctioneers Association. I put in plenty to recognize that I've been involved in auctioneering for over the years. And I'm more than happy to take a test or.
Did you have a motion, Marvin? I think we have a motion on the floor to,
I made a motion.
Well, I had a question. I don't think I got an answer.
what was your
I'm
question?
sorry, what's your question?
My question was, where, according to Tennessee state law, where does this, what's his situation?
Well, I mean, his license has been expired for more than 2 years. It says they shall reapply for license and satisfy all requirements for obtaining such license. It looks like he's got some proof of his education in here, but he would have to establish that he's completed all of those requirements. He'd have to provide proof of that.
But does he not have,
Well,
does he not have to go back to school?
Let me ask a question. Don't we recognize as far as if in Indiana, we have a reciprocal agreement, if an Indiana auctioneer comes under where they have to have continuing education in Tennessee, do we not recognize their classes up there? If they're in good standing there, does he have to come to Tennessee and take?
no.
I didn't think so.
We do recognize that. But he has to reapply for a Tennessee license, and that requires 30-hour education and the test.
Okay.
So what he's asking is you to waive the 30 hours. And
Would he have to,
possibly retesting.
if he had applied for it up there before he moved here, would that have changed the circumstances?
Absolutely.
That's kind of like this in real estate business. If you move here and apply, you're in the cold.
Hey, you're harder on
You
your
gotta start
residents
young.
than you are on
But
your.
if you apply for it when you're up here before you move, then the ball game changes.
So you've been living here for 8 years. So the ball game's been dead for a long time.
Well,
Yeah.
he's just asking that, so,
Yeah.
if we need to, I'll, change my motion for him to take the 30 hours. File an application, take the 30 hours and retest for his full license, for his auctioneer's license. Doesn't have to serve an apprenticeship or anything. He's done all that.
But I think if he's got an Indiana license, we probably would have cut him some slack.
I had no problem waiving the 30 hours since he was active up there and his license were in effect. But now we cannot get by, or at least we never have. We've been through this for years for people coming to Florida. There's people have moved to Florida and take the Florida test and will come back up here and reciprocate and move right back in the state. Same way when we did the reciprocal agreement with Arkansas. People live in West Memphis, Arkansas, wanted to reciprocate, and they couldn't. They had to take, they lived in Memphis, but
Right.
they got their Arkansas license, and they didn't want to do it. So we don't have a way to do it without him retesting that I see. But I have no trouble waiving the 30 hours since he's active in Indiana, and if his schooling is up to date. That was my first motion.
Well,
I think we need to go by what the book says.
well, and you mind?
No, go ahead.
I think what that rule says is he has to, because his license has expired and it's been more than 2 years, then he has to apply like everybody else does. But his education and his licensing in Indiana, in my opinion, makes him eligible to test. So that's if he didn't have that, then he would have to take the 30 hours. But because he's an auctioneer in Indiana and we have reciprocity with them, I think that makes him eligible to take the test.
I second your motion.
You clear on the motion? Susan, would you like to read it to us, please?
Mr. Alexander made a motion to approve the waiver for an additional 30-hour education and allow Mr. Carey to take the auctioneer exam.
Would you add one more thing in there?
Mm-hmm.
So when this comes up again, we'll know. And the reason for that, based on the reason that he is active, has an active license in Indiana, and his schooling is up to date.
And we reciprocate with Indiana.
Right.
And Indiana's a licensed state. It's not a.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That will explain it then.
No, I think that's right, but if you disagree.
I think it's one of those gray areas that have to have proof that's been satisfied, and it's up to your interpretation.
Right. Okay, we have a motion on the floor. It's been made and seconded. All in favor? Any more discussion?
Well, do we have more discussion?
Okay. All in favor? All opposed? Thank you, Mr. Carey.
Thank you. Now, at this point, then, I'll need something that says that I can sit for the test,
We can give you that, yes.
and then I make application to the PSI testing center.
And we'll give you the letter to take with you to the testing center. It'll have to be, not today.
Oh, I know. No, you'll mail it to me.
Yeah,
Later
we
this
can
week
do that.
or whatever.
You make a note to do that. We'll do that.
That's
You know,
fine.
Keep your continuing education up and all that after you.
Oh yeah. I don't have a problem with continuing education.
It doesn't seem so.
All right. Well, I appreciate your time.
All right, thank you.
Good luck.
Okay. Thank you.
Do we need to take a break before a legal report, or y'all ready,
We've got Mr.
y'all
Hanson.
ready to keep on? Huh?
Mr. Hanson.
Oh, I was just going, I'm sorry, I was looking on my iPad rather than my thing, and I'm used to seeing wrestlers, so
Well, I
I
knew. When you don't rate it.
That's all right. Wendell, would you like to give us a seminar report?
Sure.
From the National Auction School?
We have a seminar coming up February the 18th. That will be at Natchez Trace State Park.
and the subjects will be alcohol, tobacco, firearms. We have a speaker from their department coming, and also contracts in the Uniform Commercial Code. The next seminar after that should be in May in Middle Tennessee. And we're looking at the Mount Juliet, Lebanon area for that seminar.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. It's time to come back to Middle.
That'd be cool.
And that concludes my report unless you have questions.
Just keep it away from Mount Juliet Road and Lebanon Road up there for the next little while. That tornado got that pretty good up there.
I have a question, if I may.
Yes.
I had a gentleman call the office Friday about the public auto auctioneer course. That, when was the last time you offered that, and when do you plan to offer it again?
November, we offered it in 2012, and then we plan to offer it again in April.
In April. So he said there's a 5-person minimum before you would give the course?
Right.
Okay. He was a little upset that he couldn't go ahead and get a license sooner than that, but what do you do? I mean...
Needs to find 4 friends.
Or pay for 4 friends.
Find 4 friends.
That's the remedy. I mean, it's a financial decision from Nashville.
And you have had that happen, haven't you?
Yeah, we've had one person come for the course by themselves. Yeah.
And pay for 5?
Wow.
That wouldn't, if you wanted, I mean, what's the difference in that? Like you go to college, you have to pay whatever they say.
Not a bit.
But, it's a financial decision from Nashville Auction School on what does it take to sit for 4 days in a classroom?
All profit and loss,
It is. So, anybody can take one anytime they want to. Yes.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Yes.
Mr. Hanson, has there been any, from your end, any legislative issues that you wanted to report on? I know the last session, at the end of it, there was an issue that I know you were following and I think was addressed towards the commission. And has there been any change with the Department of Education and the supposed conflict that existed between the...
They gave us and the issue was to be an apprentice auctioneer, if you don't mind me clarifying that.
Absolutely not.
To be an apprentice auctioneer, you don't need a high school diploma to be an apprentice. You can come to auction school and apply for the test, take the test, and become an apprentice auctioneer. We are the only auction school in the country under a Department of Higher Education. And with more reach from our Department of Education from Tennessee, they tried, and Mr. Green attended with me with Representative Matheny, a meeting that we called with the Higher Education Department. They're mandating that all of my students, no matter from what state they're from, have a high school diploma before, and we verify that before they can attend Nashville Auction School. So right now we have a memorandum of understanding, and that's on a year-to-year basis, that they have to sign a letter in class the first morning during the orientation when they come to auction school, that they understand what the education's for, and that they don't have to have a high school diploma currently, but that could change every year. So we had an understanding back in 2008, 7, 8, that we were exempt from that, and then all of a sudden we get slammed with that last year.
So you're still pretty much at their mercy from year to year.
Oh, we are, as far as their regulation goes on students and the criteria. What happened was we had the memorandum of understanding that we didn't have to do that now. But before that, it was just an agreement with higher education. We didn't have to do that, and they came in and cited us on several students that we didn't have diplomas on file from them. Well, we don't for anybody.
Right.
Because on the 80-hour course, you don't have to. There's no requirement in Tennessee. before that, and they were bucking between the authority of the commission and their authority, and they're saying it's us. It's the higher education department, post-secondary division.
I think Ashford Ressa said something about this back when all this went on. I'm glad you brought that up because I meant to. And I think you may have touched on it just then. Across the country or whatever, or other auction schools, of course you do education for, I don't know how many states, a bunch of them.
All of them.
NAA, whatever,
all of
that
them
require
have
it.
continued education. We do.
And do I remember right, or did I hear you say, or Russell say earlier, that Tennessee's the only one to where you come under the Department of Higher Education, or whatever it is you're coming under?
It is. Yeah. And no other state, states that y'all approve
Right.
don't have to go under higher education. So it's tougher on us, Nashville Auction School, being residents of Tennessee, than, say, any other auction school.
Missouri Auction School or something doesn't have to come
They
under.
just send in a piece of paper to the auction commission and y'all approve them or deny them.
And that's one of those situations where we're being harder on our own folks than we are folks from out of town, or not us, but
Was there legislation to correct that
We tried
this year?
last year.
it was right at the last year. I remember it was right when things were shutting down. It was.
We have a group called the Tennessee Independent Association of Colleges and Schools that we're members of, and through them and lobbyists, we tried. We were unsuccessful to get some relief for that. So they either wanted us to give each student that comes to auction school a test to see if they were smart enough to go to auction school if they didn't have a high school diploma or have a copy of their high school diploma on file, which is, to me, ridiculous.
The GED work?
A GED will work, but y'all don't require, Ms. Hancock, a GED to get an apprentice license.
That's true.
So a student should not have to prove to me or to the state of Tennessee through me that they have that equivalency, since it's not required from the state to be an apprentice auctioneer.
Do you have any that don't have a high school education or a GED that want to come?
No,
So you're talking about basically it's not a big deal.
it is a big deal.
Well, whenever you have to go through this process to get approved by them, that's not something you just snap your fingers and do either, is it? I mean, it's something that you have to do every year or every however often. It's kind of a pain
It's every year.
every year that other schools don't have to do.
No, and it requires about 60 man hours to produce that package.
And the thing about it is even though if you didn't have this agreement that you have with them, they could shut you down regardless of whether you're taking students without high school diplomas or not.
Yeah.
Is that not right?
Yeah, and see, the thing about it is, Mr. Colson, I could move to Huntsville, Alabama, or Franklin, Kentucky, and I'm under no jurisdiction. Just as long as I move across the state line somewhere. So this requirement is just one of many, and that they keep adding on to us as independent schools that is burdensome, and there's no need for it.
Are you the only school in Tennessee?
I'm the only private auction school. There is another school approved under a college that's not under the guys that we are, that are not under the investigations that we are as far, and it's in East Tennessee. They're approved under another one of their programs.
So your position is you feel like you shouldn't have to have a high school or a GED, is that correct?
To come
I agree with that 100%.
to come to school?
You do?
Yeah, and I'll tell you why. Because my boys went to school, I think, one of them did before he graduated, didn't he? I've tried to send my grandson and my granddaughters. I'm gonna try to send one of them. Haven't been able to get them to go right now.
Yeah, I'd like to.
And if I
Same
had
way.
a child that, and you know, my boys, of course, they wound up when they really got active. They had a classroom thing. But if I had a child now and I was going to stay in this business, hoping I'd send him to school as soon as he'd go. And anybody can pass this test up here.
I got a grandson over there today.
Right now.
Do you?
Well,
So I mean that, you know, you could
Oh, really?
they could learn more than they can get out of college education working that auction every week, if that's
Yeah.
what they want to do.
yeah, I'm not saying that they wouldn't learn a lot. I guess what I'm saying is that we're dealing in financial transactions and so forth, and I don't know. I just think that
They're just an
GED
apprentice, though.
Yeah.
They can't do those things. They can't sign closing statements.
They can't book a sale by the sale, or
So
but they can get a license.
they can get an apprentice license, but not a full license.
Oh, I see.
Before they become a full auctioneer, Mr. Cunningham, they have to have a high school diploma.
Okay, well that answers. I didn't
Yeah.
recognize that part.
And we have no requirement for either of those. Even if you're coming for an auctioneer, the state secures that they have a high school diploma before they are allowed to take the test. Why should I have to do that when the state does it
Yeah.
already?
See, I didn't know. that
But
part.
any
before I
idea
was-
how it ended up like that in the
I
first
thought
place?
you could get a full license. Yeah.
That the auction school had to come under that.
Well, any independent, we're under post-secondary, which is all the other schools that are not full colleges. And they had a rule change back in 06, 07, and I was not allowed any input on it. There were some more changes that happened during that time, and I was told that I was not able to give any input on it. They just made a sweeping decision.
No, I'm talking about that the auction school come under this Department of Higher Education anyway.
I don't have any history on
That's
it.
probably been like something back
When it first started.
Buford
probably.
years ago or something.
Years ago.
Anything else, Commissioners? Mark, did
What
it
about-
answer your question? Thank you.
All right, before we get into legal, let's take us about a 10-minute break. That's all right for y'all.
There you go.
Zoom in, camera 3, Bobby Colson. Tight zoom.
Whether you agree with
Oh, I figured I had to get this back on now. All right, let's see. You ready, Julie? I think you're up next.
I think
You and Mark.
Mark wanted to present something real quick first, and so I probably go ahead.
We had scheduled today a case, a hearing. The defendant or the respondent, through his attorney, and I have been talking since back in December on negotiations, settlement proposals, negotiations, and which until last week had not been successful, but last week we got to a point where I was comfortable in presenting the proposed agreement to the commission, and by doing so, that meant we wouldn't have the hearing today, and so I've got the proposal here for the commission to consider. It's obviously, goes without saying, but I'll say it, it's your call on whether or not to accept the proposal. I'll tell you what the notice of hearing and charges were alleging on this individual, and tell you what the attorney and I agreed to bring before the commission to see if you would accept it. And just because I recommend that we accept it, however, as you well know, you don't have to follow my recommendation.
It's never stop us.
Exactly. You can say, no, we're not going to accept that, and we'll put this back on the docket. And the respondent and his attorney understand that as well. this is an older case that has been lingering for some time. It's the matter of Kenneth Roebuck, State of Tennessee versus Kenneth Roebuck and asset recovery auctions. There were two complainants in this matter that alleged that the respondent first made substantial misrepresentation, second pursued a continued and flagrant course of misrepresentation, making false promises through agents or advertising or otherwise, fourth, failed to account for or remit within a reasonable time any money belonging to others that comes into the licensee's possession, commingling funds or of others with the licensee's own, or failing to keep such funds or others in an escrow or trustee account, violating provisions of the auctioneer law chapter, rules and regulations duly promulgated thereunder, and conduct of the auctioneer which demonstrated improper, fraudulent, incompetent, or dishonest dealings. The facts of this case were the respondent was accused of, the respondent has been licensed, his license number is 2207. He has been licensed He's been licensed several years. I'll find that information.
Well, he gave them up one time, didn't he? How did he get it back? I never heard that come up.
No, I didn't
I
either.
think that was a different, I think that was,
No, it's not a different one.
Is he licensed now?
he is licensed, he is currently licensed.
I didn't know that.
This guy who bought Delta auction,
No. Yes, yes, yes.
Well-
This is a son.
this is Roebuck's son.
Well, let me explain to you what happened in this matter. This man conducted an auction back in 2008 for the West Tennessee Drug Task Force, and in conjunction with them, the City of Trenton Police Department and the Gibson County Sheriff's Department, he collected through his auction over $50,000, at which time he failed to turn that money over to the entities. After several months of trying to get their money, the West Tennessee Drug Task Force director took the matter to the grand jury, and he was indicted on 3 counts of theft. The amount was up to, it was a felony charge up to $60,000 of funds that were alleged to have been stolen by the respondent. He entered a plea agreement. There were 3 counts of theft, and he entered a plea agreement with the district attorney of Gibson County, in which he pled to one theft over $50,000 and entered what's called pretrial diversion, meaning he wouldn't go to jail as long as he made efforts to pay the money back. And he has been doing that. He has been paying the money back. The witness that would testify would testify that he indeed has met the terms of his pretrial diversion. In addition to that, in 2009, there was another complaint that came in that he had conducted an auction for somebody in Middle Tennessee in which he failed to account for $2,900. Different, separate people. The respondent did not turn that money over, and sued him civilly in Shelby County. The complainants filed a claim again for the Tennessee Auctioneer Education and Recovery Fund that was approved by the commission, and thereby the commission paid, I think, $2,900 out of the, or approved the payment of $2,900 on the Education and Recovery Fund to the complainants
And
who
this
made
was
a
in
valid
09.
claim. I'm sorry.
This was in 09.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
it came before the
Well,
commission in 11,
okay.
but yes, that happened in 09.
Okay.
So we have these two complaints, and obviously this gentleman has had issues. What the proposed terms of the, and I've talked with the witness, I've talked with the director of the West Tennessee Drug Task Force on multiple occasions, and this gentleman's attorney, and I won't go into all the what their defense would be or whatnot, but the proposed agreed order that I'm bringing to you consider would be a 2-year suspension of this gentleman's license, costs for to the state, repay money over 12 months to the Tennessee Auctioneer Commission, which is roughly $3,000 that would go to the Education and Recovery Fund, an automatic revocation of his license if he doesn't continue to meet the terms of his pretrial diversion, meaning payment of restitution that he owes back to the West Tennessee Drug Task Force. He is subject, obviously, if he does not do that, then the district attorney will make a motion to the court that his pretrial diversion be canceled, and he will automatically be sent to jail for his full term, which is several years. So those are the terms that are being proposed. I started out with just a straight revocation and repayment. He hired an attorney, and we have been negotiating. Those are the terms that I agreed that I would bring to the commission. And so, without getting into all the mitigating factors plus any other proof of his guilt or innocence, that's what I'm bringing before the commission to consider.
Now, he still has his license, is that
He
correct?
currently has his license.
I'd like to say one thing before we get our discussion. In 2008 or 9, as a commission member, I met with a Mr. Robot's attorney and Lynn McNeil. Is that last name McGill? Over a similar thing, and at that time, I believe that he agreed to pay $4,000. I can't. It's been so long, I can't remember the exact figures. But if it's the same guy, it seems to me like this is a repeat.
Well, I don't have. I mean, I don't have in the record that he. Yeah, I don't see.
I thought his license had expired at one time.
The office up here put out they were expired.
And I kept waiting on it to come in front of us
His
to
attorney,
try to get them back and never did see it.
his attorney was Jasper Jones' daughter
And that's been,
at that time.
That's not
It was, because Lynn was down there with me.
There,
We met in the conference room.
I'm pretty sure there was a complaint made that, and he was selling sales for John without a license. He was doing that.
Was he the national up here president at one time?
There's
His daddy was,
His daddy.
John, in Broad Delta.
Yeah, okay. That might have been his daddy that was up here then.
probably would.
It was a robot. and he was
Probably.
tremendous, and he
Probably would.
dealt with all of them.
But can we find out when that license expired, when it was given back, how he got it back?
Yeah, I've always wondered about that myself.
It was expired over 2 years, I think.
If we could take a 5-minute break, I'll ask Susan to step downstairs and check the record and see how long he's been licensed, if there was a break, and if there was any other activity against him, complaints.
Yeah, you'll check that.
Did you look under
I think that'd be good.
It'll be there.
And she's going to look it up in our regulatory board system. That's the best way. That's the best way. I want to go there with her Susan. I'm still learning the system.
Okay.
It was probably in, you came here in '09. It was probably in. Good deal.
All right.
Okay,
Judy, Mark.
I've got the data that we were talking about that you wanted to be clear on. There is a 2009 case, which I have, which is included in this notice of charges. There is a 2012 case that I have. That's the one with the West Tennessee Drug Task Force that is included in this notice of charges. In 2010, it appears that the respondent entered a consent order for allowing his license to expire and paid $1,000. He did pay that in 2010 and apparently renewed his license at that point. He was licensed first in 1988 and continued to be licensed up to 2010, where that lapsed, and he had apparently called an auction with his license lapsing. A complaint came in and a consent order went out, which he paid and renewed his license. So that's the history on it.
So in a situation like that where, of course, I guess it had to come in front of us, didn't it? This
2010.
This 2010 when
Yeah.
we paid the $1,000 and got them back.
Right.
It doesn't have to come before the commission.
I sure don't remember, but
Here we
Consent
go.
orders.
But they haven't been out 2 years at that time?
No. It doesn't appear, and the summary doesn't state that, and he renewed it. That's all I have on the history. I don't see that it was that it
If he
expired.
renewed it, that would have bypassed us, wouldn't it?
well, that was kind of what I was trying to get at. But if there was a consent order, that's not, consent orders aren't sent out, or are they,
That had to be-
without coming in front of us?
Well, you approve the action with the consent order
Right.
for the recommendation, and then
So somewhere along the chain of this, it had to come to have come in front of us.
Right.
Okay.
But you wouldn't have known who it was.
Right. Right.
Did you find anything about what I was talking about in 2008?
found a 2007 under a
Seven.
different roebuck.
Yeah. That's
All right, that's what I was talking about.
that explains that. And I don't know if this is has anything to do with it, or if you're able to answer this, or I'm allowed to ask it, or whatever, but, so apparently he's paying back on this drug task force money.
Yes, he's paying. He's
And-
currently current.
But I mean, is he doing auction business to pay it, or who knows, or?
I don't know how he's funding the restitution.
So I guess it really doesn't make any difference to us.
Right now, he's licensed
Right.
and can do, what he There haven't been any complaints since this time, since 2008 when 2009 when this occurred. So if he is doing auctions, he apparently is doing them, and there's no complaints. Now, you can take that for what it's
There
worth.
was two. I thought there was one in 10. Was it?
That's when it went to the grand. That's when it went before the grand jury. They took it in 2002.
They don't about there hadn't been any complaints since then.
They took what in 2010 now? The 2010 was over which case?
It went to the grand jury on the West Tennessee case. The
The
2000
drug task force thing.
The drug task force case went before the grand jury.
Where did the $2,900 come in at?
That happened in 2009.
2009. So you got two cases there then.
In 08 and 09, this man,
Okay. 8 was drug task force. 9 was $2,900 from somebody else that was sued.
that
Civil
sued,
court.
yeah, and got a
So he's
judgment.
got two.
Are we allowed to express our opinion on this?
You're allowed to discuss, absolutely. You're allowed to state your position.
Well, I'm gonna state my position and then I'll be quiet. My position is if you've got an auctioneer that steals, doesn't matter how much he steals, but he gets $2,900, $60,000 from people I'd be scared to death of, and then in 09, $2,900. My opinion is that a person like this does not deserve to have a Tennessee auctioneer license, period.
But see now, that drug task force, the way I wrote down here, that auction was held in 2008.
Right.
So if something had been done then, these folks in 2009 would have not gotten stuck. And our recovery fund would not gotten hit. Now, every time since I've been on this commission, that I sat on this commission and somebody stole $40, $50, $60,000, we had a formal hearing and their license were revoked. And I couldn't sit on this commission and vote to let somebody else's license stay in effect. I don't care what the court said, how he pays it back, and let him have a license and do it. I think he needs to turn his license in if he wants to plea bargain this thing and pay. We vote on what kind of fine we want to give him. And if you got to have, if he wants that, other than that, I'm for having a full hearing and taking his license. Now we have sat here and fined people here. I don't guess we've collected any of it. Little old people for dumpster diving and everything else, $1,000 a sale and everything. And here we let a man steal $60,000 and we're going to take a little fine and let him keep his license. Well, that's ridiculous.
Well, there'd be a 2-year suspension.
2-year suspension is nothing when you steal that kind of money.
There was a
Commissioner, I don't disagree with you. I told the man that we reached a point that I said I will take that before the commission. I'm not.
Here's my opinion on it. I think number one, we ought to tell him, and I don't know what his financial shape is, that he has to pay everything back immediately, pull his license, and if he does pay it all back, then he can come before the commission and ask for the license back. But let's try and get the money. Use that as a negotiating tool.
Well, I think it's up to the court to get the money. You know, they took him to the grand jury, they had a trial, and evidently he was guilty, so they're going to collect the money. But I think it's up to this commission to make the right decision on whether we have people with a state of Tennessee auctioneer license that goes out and does things like this. And I'm under the opinion that we don't let anybody do this 2 times and keep a license, period. We had this happen in about 06. A guy came in here and had one of those hearings, and the judge and all that, and he got a good fine and suspended his license for 1 year, and he is now in prison over doing stuff.
Something else.
Well, connected to the auction business. So I'm just don't believe that he deserves to have a license.
It's important that whatever we do going forward is the commission the proof will determine at the hearing your decision. There may be mitigating factors that you consider that lessen what your position is. So I caution you about making a determination as far as one way or another. You still have to be unbiased because it appears we're going to have a formal hearing on this, and they'll obviously I'll introduce proof. You know what my case is. They'll introduce their evidence regarding any factors and you'll still have to consider that. You can't just You can't make up your mind based upon my presenting what
we
the
don't know
accusation
everything.
is. You don't know everything.
We don't know everything.
So,
but Marvin did make a good point. To my way of thinking is, if we had done this in 2008, whoever got busted in 2009 might not have happened.
well, we didn't know about the West Tennessee case until 2012.
Right. But
January of last year.
And then Howard, kind of way I put it, they smoke, they fire. So
Isn't he supposed to notify us in a situation like this? So there was a 2-year gap that we didn't know? Wouldn't that go back to his?
Well, he's supposed to know if he pleads or is convicted. Under pretrial diversion, there is no conviction as long as you're making the terms. There's some legal gray area there that the argument is I wasn't convicted. Because the court allowed me to do A, B, C, and D so that I wouldn't be found guilty, and therefore there was nothing to report.
Okay, how long is it going to take him to pay this back?
The restitution to the he had to pay $20,000 by September of 2011, and he did pay that. Now he's paying $600, $700, $800 a month going forward.
I'd like to make a motion if you want to try to sell this, since he's made us a offer, that we go back and offer him pay a $10,000 fine, turn in his license, submit them, and they be gone. And then when he gets completely paid out and pays our recovery fund back, or the Auctioneer Commission recovery fund, he can resubmit the license. Come forward, board, whoever's on here at that time. Or set it for a full hearing.
It might get you money.
do we have a second? Would you like to restate them? Reread the motion for us, Susan, please.
$10,000 civil penalty and voluntary surrender of license. He's eligible to reapply for licensure before the commission upon payment in full.
Well, that's settlement of not of this 10,000, of all monies paid back.
Okay.
But now in the meantime, he still has a license right now.
Yeah, I know, that's all I turned it in.
I'll
Okay.
ask Commissioner Alexander a question. Let's suppose that the attorney calls his attorney, and his attorney calls and tells him what this is, and he says, okay, I'll write him a check for it Monday. So is his license suspended until Monday if he writes that check, or
No, I think the way he stated the motion, paying the check ain't got nothing to do with getting the license back.
My motion is that his license is turned in, forfeited, gone. When he wants another license, he comes, files an application, comes before this commission. After he's paid the $10,000, he's paid the $2,900, and fulfilled his other obligations involving those folks. When it's all paid, then he can reapply, just like this gentleman from Indiana did, And whoever's on this commission at that time, whether it's next week or 10 years from now, will decide his fate about getting a license back. Just like everybody else that's had a felony.
I'll second your motion.
Mr. Chairman, may I?
Yes.
The fine of $10,000, does that include repayment of the?
Does that include the 2,900?
Yeah, that needs to be.
No,
No,
that's
that needs to be separate.
$10,000 to the civil penalty to the. No, it's $10,000 to just like
It's a civil penalty.
civil penalty to the Auctioneer Commission.
Plus
Plus
you know,
repaying a $2,900.
Our law says that if you get something out of that recovery fund, you have to put it back. or
Right,
you
but I
have
want to
no
make
money.
sure that's in there.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And then when he pays everything else off and pays that, he can reapply for an auctioneer's license to the commission. Or
So
if that's not happened, set it for a full hearing.
So if I'm, just make sure we're all thinking the same way, you're looking at 10,000 civil penalty, 2,900 back to the recovery fund, immediate forfeiture of license, and then once he pays back that, plus the drug task force, however much is left on that after what he's already paid to this point, then he can come back and reapply to whoever might be here.
Just like
whenever
somebody
it's-
starting.
Right. Okay. Now, is that you clear, Howard? Your second still good? Okay. We're good? Or in a formal hearing? All in favor? All opposed? Next.
What happens if he pays the $1,300? I mean, $13,000, and in a week's time and gets his license back?
Hey, Don, that ain't nothing to do with it. License still suspended.
He has to come back.
He still has to
No, that's
reapply to
not
the
a-
commission.
You didn't say suspended. He surrendered.
I said,
Yeah.
it's gone. I mean, his license is gone.
Voluntarily surrenders it for revocation
That's not.
or forfeiture.
Whatever, how that needs to be stated.
Yeah, how does that need to be worded, Julie?
I'm sorry, I was
How
standing.
does it need to be stated?
That the license is gone.
Suspended, it is gone. When he turns.
It's revoked.
It's revoked.
Okay.
Revoked.
That
Do we need to redo that?
No, I got that.
Oh, okay.
I think that was the voluntarily turn in his license is revocation. And there's only you can only keep it, suspend it, or revoke it. If he's going to voluntarily turn it in, then that's a revocation.
I just didn't want to change it to voluntary surrender because that gives it right back to him if.
Yeah, I asked that question.
Yeah.
And a voluntary
Revoke,
surrender,
yeah.
Travis.
Okay.
Yeah, it's. I
But you know what
understood it as
we're- okay.
revocation.
Okay. All right. Now I guess it's your turn, Julie.
Okay. Before I do the legal report, there's just two short things I just wanted to address with you all. Since this is our first meeting of this year, in our last legal staff meeting, Laura Betty, our chief counsel, asked all of the board attorneys just to do a quick reminder about the Open Meetings Act. I know all of you are aware of it, but she asked us all to just cover it at our first meeting. Just a reminder that the Tennessee's Open Meetings Act is found at the Tennessee Code, beginning at Section 844-101. And the purpose of that is just, it's the policy of the state that all formation of public policy and decisions are public business and shouldn't be conducted in secret, and all meetings of any governing body which has been determined to include any board, commission, committee, etc., is declared to be public meeting, open to the public at all times, and let's see, that it requires adequate public notice, which you'll notice Donna addressed at the beginning of the meeting, stating how notice was given. That hasn't been specifically defined, but it's supposed to mean under the circumstances that if the public's been fairly informed of when the meeting would take place. Requires the minutes to be recorded and open to inspection, and a meeting is defined as convening of the governing body for which a quorum is required to make a decision or deliberate toward a decision. All deliberations must be in the open, on the record, which means no talking amongst yourselves quietly. Even, during a deliberation, if someone looks at it on the video, it could appear that that was taking place, not in the public. No, talking, on the phone outside of the meeting about deliberating items, that will be discussed at the meeting, determined. Just things of that nature. Just a reminder, we were all supposed to go over it. I know you're all aware. If you have any questions, you can let me know, but I just wanted to go over it briefly. As far as legislation that we've only had one bill so far, and that just extends the termination date of the Auctioneer Commission from the current date, June 30th, 2013, to June 30th, 2018. That's been the only one we've had so far, but they're just starting to come in, so there could be more, and I'll update y'all monthly if we have more come in. So far, that's the only bill that I've gotten. So those were just two quick matters, and I'll go ahead to the legal report now. I just wanted to cover those quickly. Does everybody have their report up? Oh, you got the book. Okay.
Got mine up.
The first five are 2012, 011, 211, 2012, 012, 401, 2012, 012, 402, 2012, 025, 891, and 2012, 025, 901. This was originally presented at the August meeting in 2012. It was a tack open complaint based on a copy of a newspaper advertisement received, which advertises an auction of antiques, furniture, home decor, etc., which lists the name of an unlicensed entity, which is Respondent 1, based on the information in the newspaper advertisement referencing an auction zip ad, which contained the license number of Respondent 2, an auctioneer, and the name of Respondent 3, an auction firm. Complaints were opened against the respondents. The response was received stating that Respondent 3 was unaware that Respondent 1, a separate business, needed a separate license since Respondent 1 mostly auctioned its own property. Respondent 3 states that Respondent 1 has ceased any consignment auctions until the complaint is resolved and they are instructed on how to comply. Regarding the newspaper advertisement's lack of including the firm name and license number of Respondent 3 states this is an inadvertent error on the part of the newspaper which has been addressed, and a letter from the newspaper was included confirming this. Telephone call to the owner of Respondent 3 firm confirmed that Respondent 1 is a separate business owned by one of Respondent 3's apprentice auctioneers. The apprentice is a closed Respondent 1 business and plans to obtain a gallery license before engaging in activity of this kind in the future. The recommendation at that time was a letter of warning to Respondent 1 regarding the gallery license requirement, and Respondents 2 and 3 a letter of warning regarding the rule requiring that all advertisements must contain the name and license number of the firm or gallery responsible for holding the sale. The Commission voted to defer it to send it to investigation to determine how many auctions that Respondent 1 did and whether Respondent 3 that's supposed to say Respondent 2, the auctioneer properly sponsored all auctions. Investigator was sent to obtain additional information regarding the matter. The investigator's report indicates the investigator spoke with and obtained an affidavit from the owner of Respondent 3 firm, who stated that an apprentice auctioneer with the firm owned Respondent 1. The owner stated that Respondent 1 held approximately 8 auctions consisting of household goods, furniture, and antiques. Respondent 2, the principal auctioneer for Respondent 3 firm, there's too many people here, was present and supervised all auctions. Further, the owner of Respondent 3 states that Respondent 1 has held no additional auctions after being notified of this complaint. The investigator also interviewed the apprentice owner of Respondent 1 and requested copies of listings, items, sold, bid sheets, and invoices from the 8 auctions held by Respondent 1. According to the investigator, the apprentice owner of Respondent 1 promised to provide copies of the documents which were in storage, and the investigator made multiple unsuccessful attempts to obtain the documentation. The recommendation at that time was to discuss, and the Commission decided to open complaints against the apprentice auctioneer who owned, operated the unlicensed Respondent 1 and the apprentice auctioneer who is the owner of Respondent 3, and handle all of the complaints together at an upcoming meeting. Pursuant to the direction of the Commission, complaints were opened against Respondent 4, the apprentice auctioneer who was the owner-operator of Respondent 1 unlicensed entity, and Respondent 5, the apprentice auctioneer is the owner of Respondent 3 licensed firm. Respondent 4 and 5 submitted responses to the complaint stating that respondents were unaware that Respondent 4 needed a gallery license for Respondent 1 entity because Respondent 4 was selling over 60% of Respondent 4's personal property. Respondents state that all auctions for Respondent 1 entity have ceased until the complaint is resolved and they are instructed on how to comply. No information has been received to indicate that the unlicensed entity is engaged in any auction since that time this complaint was filed. The recommendation is to close as to respondents 3 and 5, the licensed firm and the apprentice owner of that licensed firm. As to respondent 1, recommendation is a letter of warning regarding the license requirement of 6219-102, and as to respondents 2 and 4, letters of warning regarding 6219-125's gallery license provisions. I did draw out a little chart to show the relationships between them, because I know it's hard to understand.
This one's confusing.
And I thought this might help you all understand a little bit.
We love visual aids.
Well, I drew it out, and then I asked Mark to look at it to see if it made sense to him. And I'll give it to you now.
Like 5 eggs.
I guess I could have made it more artistic, but the point was to hopefully lay it out.
It's abstract. It's abstract art.
Smiley faces on the building.
I could have drawn little people, I guess, or little buildings,
Stripes.
but I tried to lay out who was who and the relationship between them. I can answer any questions you all may have. I know when it's anonymous, it's difficult to understand the relationship, though, and that's...
Well, I have one question, and
Sure.
that's all. Respondent 1 mostly auctioneers its own property. Mostly.
They said about 60% of the items sold were the property of respondent 4, the apprentice that owned that entity. The auctions that took place there were mostly his property, so they said that they thought that that was... They didn't know that they were doing anything wrong. They state that since they got the complaint, they've ceased that because...
But mostly does not mean 100%, so he was selling other people's stuff too. Okay.
That's correct based on the information they've given us, yes.
Well, even if you're selling your own stuff, if you're in the business of doing it, you still need to be licensed.
Mostly don't get the job done.
It's kind of like being a little bit pregnant.
Not going there.
The reason for the recommendation is, I've tried looking for further advertisements. We've received no further indication that they've done it anymore. There doesn't appear to be a continuing threat to the public from this. The recommendation was a letter of warning. Obviously, if these people come before us again, it's, they've been instructed. But that's the reasoning behind the recommendation was it appears that they did several, and then when they received the complaints, they stayed, and we've received no indication otherwise that they have ceased doing what they were doing. So,
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion to go with the council's recommendation.
We have a motion to go with council's recommendation. Do we have a second?
I withdraw my motion for lack of a second.
Do we have any discussion?
I tell you what I'm gonna do, it just dawned on me, I may know about this thing. The more I hear about it, the more I think I might after seeing this. So I'm gonna refrain from commenting or voting. I'm not sure I do, but
Just make a motion again.
Okay, I'll put my motion on the table.
Okay, we have a motion to go with legal's recommendation. Again, I'm going to second it for purposes of discussion. So, we can discuss it first. and then vote on it. Don't you?
If you all have something.
I mean, if we have any discussion, is there any discussion?
If there's none, then you could call.
Yeah, no, I may have some. I'm still studying these eggs.
One of mine's cracked.
I'm sorry. I didn't take many art classes.
It's abstract. It's okay. So we're looking at sending a letter, respondent one who is unlicensed.
Right.
And so they're going to get a letter of warning which would regard you got to be licensed.
That you have to be licensed, 102.
And 2 and 4 are licensed.
Two is the sponsor of 4,
Right.
who is the apprentice that's running 1. 2 apparently oversaw all of the auctions, so I thought that both of those individuals would benefit from a letter of warning regarding the gallery license requirement of 6219-125.
You know,
And unlicensed.
Bobby,
Well, no, they're
sir.
licensed. Go ahead.
I didn't understand the drawing. Is it too late for me to withdraw my motion?
No.
I withdraw my motion because I didn't understand that this guy was auctioning without a license.
Well, the gallery did not have a license. The person doing the auctioning was a licensed apprentice whose sponsor was present to.
Okay. But it said that respondent 1 mostly auctioneered its own property.
I guess I worded that poorly, but it was 4's property. Respondent 1 is the unlicensed entity, the unlicensed gallery. It's not a person.
Oh, it's not the person.
They didn't
No.
have a gallery license.
They didn't have a gallery license. 1 is the unlicensed gallery. 4 is the person whose property was.
Unlicensed gallery.
So 5
1 and
is
3
the
are
owner of the
licenses.
firm
Is the owner
and is an apprentice.
is the owner of the license firm where they all
Right.
hold their licenses.
2 is the
Sponsor for both of the
4 and
apprentices.
5 and the principal auctioneer for the firm,
Respondent 3.
which is the firm. And then 4 is the apprentice auctioneer that was actually doing the selling
Operating the unlicensed gallery under the
Unlicensed gallery.
supervision of his sponsor.
of 2.
Mm-hmm.
So basically.
And
if I'm a-
1
Is the unlicensed
That's
gallery
unlicensed.
itself.
Everybody's licensed. They
Except
just
the
didn't
gallery.
get a gallery license.
Well, but were they supposed to have a gallery license to be legal?
Yeah.
So they didn't, they were operating without a license.
They were operating unlicensed gallery.
Right.
Yes, sir.
They were operating an unlicensed gallery.
Yeah, so I withdraw my motion.
With
I
the
did not
firm.
see that, I didn't understand that. I would
They
never
follow the
vote.
firm license code.
Yeah, they thought the firm. Okay.
So 3 and 5, letter of warning.
What they did, they went out here in the building somewhere and started an auction, right? With no, is that a firm license?
Yeah, they hold their license with a firm.
The top 2 are businesses, the bottom 3 are the people.
Well, who was supposed to have this gallery license?
Respondent 4.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to be so.
No,
I'm still confused too.
Respondent 4 operating these operating these consignment auctions would appear would need a gallery license because he was holding multiple consignment auctions at a location.
Okay. And respondent 2, who's his principal, his sponsor, messed up by not making sure he did that.
What is the fine for operating without a license and having principal auctioneer, who owns, number 4 owns this gallery, right?
Was operating the unlicensed gallery. Yes, sir.
Now, he does not, he has a apprentice license, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm getting straight.
All right, so they had like a business over here that was like Mark Green's auction barn or whatever. And that's where that's the unlicensed entity that was holding this, where they were having the sales and holding the sales. And all
They were
that
going
stuff.
to a business.
They were going to a place.
building, a
Okay.
place.
And what was it?
And having
Because what I was getting at is we got a firm involved here, and a firm can do so. But if it was, but the firm wasn't the one, he wasn't the one that was doing the sales. It was his apprentice.
How much is the penalty for that?
up to 1,000, I believe. Yes, sir. For a violation of 102.
So the auctioneer and the apprentice both violated the rule, right? Correct?
They say that they had 8 consignment auctions under this unlicensed gallery.
Okay, I'll make another motion. Ready?
I'm ready.
I think that we make a motion that we issue a civil penalty of $500 against the apprentice and $500 against the auctioneer for operating without a license.
Well, I'd like to add to that, which would be respondent.
4 is the apprentice.
4 and 5,
2,
right?
No, I'm sorry. 2 is the sponsor, is the auctioneer.
All right.
4 is the apprentice that was operating the
So it'd be 2 and
unlicensed
4.
gallery. 2 and 4, yes,
Did
sir.
I get the wrong one?
No, I think you're
No, you
okay.
said
But
it right.
what about the unlicensed person? Can we find them too?
There is no unlicensed person.
There's an
There's
unlicensed gallery.
entity, which that would catch 4. Okay, okay.
And so
Okay.
you're saying cite them under the 125 gallery license requirement. Yes, sir. I understand what you're saying.
All right. Let me get straight. And 5 owns the firm.
5 owns the firm, but he's an apprentice.
So he's number 1.
Yeah.
Apprentice can't own a firm. You know, gallery.
Yeah.
It'd have to be a non-auctioneer firm.
Trying to be an auctioneer.
I'm just trying to make sure we got everybody covered. Do we have 5 covered?
5 was to close.
Yeah.
5 o'clock.
5 wasn't really involved in
Well, he's
the
the
one,
Owner of the farm 3.
but they advertised as respondent 1.
Okay.
all right. We have a motion to
Civil penalty of $500
We have some that do.
for a civil penalty of $500 each to 2 and 4, and letters of warning to all of them.
Second?
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And I abstain.
And Marvin abstained.
Is that bad?
Go ahead, Brad. Done.
It takes a while. If it hadn't been for them eggs, I'd have never figured this out.
No, you can do it on your
You
end.
can discard your drawing.
I'm taking mine. I'm gonna put it up on my refrigerator.
What not to
Just
do.
don't ask me to commission any more artwork. I'll do it as necessary.
It made it very easy to understand.
Thank you. I hope it assisted.
It did.
Are y'all ready for me to move on to 6
Yes.
and 7? 6 and 7 are 2012-020151 and 2012-020161. The complainant states that the complainant purchased a truck from respondent's firm. Respondent 1 is an apprentice auctioneer whose license is currently expired. Respondent 2 is an auctioneer and is Respondent 1's sponsor in May 2012. At that time, the vehicle did not run, so complainant had the vehicle towed home. Complainant states the complainant was told that the title would be mailed to complainant's home. Complainant states that despite multiple attempts by complainant has not received the title for the truck. There was no response to the complaint. An investigator was sent to obtain additional information regarding this matter. The investigator met with respondents to discuss the complaint. As to Respondent 1's expired license, the investigator obtained a sworn affidavit from Respondent 2 stating that Respondent 2 is the only licensed auctioneer at the firm and is present at all auctions, and Respondent 1 only solicits equipment from clients for inclusion in sales but does not hold any auctions. With regard to the subject truck, respondents state that the vehicle was offered via timed online auction only, and the title for the truck was lost, and respondents could not get the cooperation of the original owner to secure a replacement. Respondents told investigators that they are in the process of attempting to obtain a bonded title for complainant. The investigator was also provided with copies of lots offered by respondent's firm during the year 2012. Based on the information contained within the file, there does not appear to be any proof of unlicensed activity by Respondent 1 whose license is expired. It is difficult to determine based on the information within the file whether Respondent 2 should have a public automobile auctioneer license. Therefore, it is recommended this matter be referred to the Motor Vehicle Commission for a determination of whether licensure as a motor vehicle dealer is required, and therefore the recommendation is to close and refer to the Motor Vehicle Commission with the possibility of reopening the complaint dependent upon the Motor Vehicle Commission's determination of this matter.
We don't have any jurisdiction over this.
You mean the title issue?
Well, that needs to go. We don't have any jurisdiction over this auctioneer because it was a timed online auction.
Well, we did receive other lots of other sales throughout 2012 that looked like there could be some automobiles included in that. However, as I understand it, I discussed this with the Motor Vehicle Commission attorney, and there's a number of exceptions that may or may not be applicable to this individual for all of their sales because there were multiple sales conducted. The investigator obtained lots from multiple auctions during the course of the investigation.
I make a motion we take legal's advice and just refer it to the Motor Vehicle Commission. Close it.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Number 8 and 9, 2012-023181 and 2012-023201. The complainant is a licensee who submitted copies of advertisements for an auction of land to take place approximately 1 month after the complaint was received. The advertisements contain the names of respondents. Both are unlicensed. Both are companies located outside of the state. Complaints were opened and sent out for a response. Executives with respondents contacted the TAC office, and a telephone conference took place with these individuals, the executive director and legal counsel. At that time, the executives stated that their plan was to reactivate one of the executives' Tennessee auctioneer license to hold the auction. At that time, they were advised of the statutes requiring an entity auctioning real property must be properly licensed as an auctioneer and real estate broker with a real estate firm and auction firm license. The executives for respondents indicated they were not aware of these requirements and they planned to pull all advertisements and postpone the sale until such point as the auction could be held in compliance with the law. Complainant was alerted to this development by the executive director and agreed to update the office if the complainant became aware of any further non-compliant ads or if the auction was held by respondents. Responses were then submitted on behalf of respondents stating that the auction was to be conducted by an individual who was licensed as an auctioneer and real estate broker who was with a licensed auction firm and real estate firm. The response stated that respondents have done no further advertising of the auction and all advertising would feature the names and license numbers of the licensed firm and auctioneer who were going to conduct the auction. To date, the auction has taken place and the TAC office has received no further information from the complainant or otherwise of any violations in advertising or conducting the sale. Therefore, the recommendation is a letter of warning regarding to both respondents regarding Section 6219-102's license requirements.
I am going to excuse myself from this one.
Why, if you had a license in the state before, would you not know what the law was?
I believe he had been expired for several years, if I'm remembering correctly.
You know, with it, I'm kind of like Marvin. If he had a license at one time, he knew it was you had to have a license to have a sale. I don't know.
His plan was to reactivate his license according to the man that we spoke with, and he thought that if his license.
So he couldn't reactivate because it's over 2 years.
I'm not sure if
Well,
it's
apparently he advertised it before he reactivated it anyway, or before he checked on it, or he wouldn't have advertised it. Well, that don't compute either. But they got somebody in Tennessee to do the sale.
They have a license. Complaint was sent out before the auction took place. We had a telephone conversation, and they submitted information that they were going to have a licensed individual whose license is an auctioneer and broker through an auction firm and real estate firm conduct the sale, and that those names be on all further advertisements. And like I said, Donna contacted the complainant to watch the situation, and we continued to do searches to monitor it, and we've received no information indicating that any further violations took place after the one that was sent in to advertise the auction.
And the auction they've already had the sale, and we think they got somebody from Tennessee to do it, or we think they did. We hadn't heard any more complaints.
The complainant assured me that he would let me know if he saw any other violations there. He was going to the sale and haven't heard back from him, so apparently everything's okay. This is a large real estate firm in another state with lots of employees that are real estate and auctioneers, and that's what they specialize in. And when we had the phone conversation, the CEO we spoke to was surprised that the person that was coming in here had let his license lapse in Tennessee. So it was kind of that, oops, we didn't know his license was expired, the guy that was going to run the sale, so.
Did he have any other sales going on in Tennessee?
Not that we've received any indication.
So they backed out and got somebody licensed to do it.
I'll make a motion we accept legal's advice.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Huh?
Right. And Howard recused yourself, right?
I did.
Okay.
You're ready to 10. 2012026 341. The complainant states the complainant contacted respondent, a licensed firm which is located out of state, regarding selling some of complainant's restaurant equipment. Complainant states that respondent sent complainant a contract, but complainant was not happy with the contract and did not sign it. Complainant states that respondent then advertised the products in the local newspapers and in a flyer, and as a result, everyone thought complainant's restaurant was shut down. Respondent submitted a reply stating that complainant contacted respondent regarding complainant's plans to close complainant's restaurant and asking about selling complainant's restaurant equipment as soon as possible. Respondent states that complainant sent photos and a complete listing of items to be sold, and respondent informed complainant of the auction process and associated costs. Respondent, who claims to specialize in sales of this type, states that respondent was already scheduled to conduct another similar auction in the vicinity of complainant's location a few weeks after complainant contacted respondent. Respondent states that respondent told complainant that if complainant's auction could be held on a day following shortly after the similar auction, the marketing already in place could increase exposure to complainant's auction. Complainant states that the contract was sent to complainant for review and signature, and after speaking numerous times with complainant by phone, respondent states that complainant said the contract was under review by complainant's attorney but would be signed and sent back, and in the meantime, complainant gave approval to move forward with marketing. Respondent states that respondent marketed the auction by mailing a brochure, placing newspaper ads, adding the auction to respondent's website, and emailing respondent's marketing database. A week prior to the auction, respondent states that complainant said complainant's attorney had issues with the choice of law and forum clauses, which complainant was willing to change, and complainant wanted explanation about the buyer's premium, which was done. That explanation was given and satisfied complainant. 2 days prior to the auction, respondent states that respondent was contacted by complainant's business asking respondent to cancel the auction due to personal issues with complainant's family, and respondent posted a cancellation on respondent's website, sent an email blast, and placed an ad and placed on 2 occasions ran an advertisement regarding complainant's location remaining open. Respondent states that this resulted in cost to respondent for which respondent has not held complainant responsible. Based on the information contained in the file, there does not appear to be a violation by respondent, and therefore the recommendation is to dismiss.
We have a motion
I'll
or
make
any
a
discussion?
motion to take council's recommendation.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Okay, number 11, 2011-026741. This was originally presented at the January 2012 meeting. The complaint alleges that respondent failed to include its license number on advertising in violation of 6219-118C2 and TAC Rules 01600120, subsection 1. Copy of the advertising was sent with the complaint. Upon review, respondent is not licensed as an auctioneer firm within the state of Tennessee. Additionally, respondent did not answer the complaint. The recommendation at that time was a consent order with a civil penalty for $500 for violating 6219-118C2 and Rule 0160-1.20, subsection 1, and a $1,000 civil penalty for violation of 6219-102, which is unlicensed activity. The decision at that time was that the commission voted to authorize a consent order with a civil penalty of $500 for violating section 6219-118C2 and Rule 0160-01-.20, subsection 1, and a $2,000 civil penalty for the violation of 6219-102, unlicensed activity. The consent order was mailed to respondent in January 2012. Because respondent did not choose to settle the matter informally, the matter was forwarded to litigation, and in August 2012, formal disciplinary charges were filed. However, service was not able to be effected on the respondent, and respondent can no longer be located. There is no indication that respondent is still operating, and therefore the recommendation is to close.
Find him.
That's the problem.
Is he in Tennessee?
Don't know. He's
But
no
I mean-
longer where he was.
I mean, this was a Tennessee.
It was a Tennessee.
I can check it.
Auctioneer.
You need to check it, right?
Yeah.
It was in Tennessee.
Yeah, it's up in East Tennessee. And I spoke to this gentleman after he received the consent order, and then when I filed formal charges, he would send it certified mail, and it came back no longer.
Not deliverable as addressed.
And
Is what
So he just disappeared.
he has disappeared. We have a couple like that.
Well, can you flag that for down the road?
Is it possible that, I thought Pleasant Flag was flagging the licensing file. Is it possible, I mean, clearly if we get a new complaint in for the same people, the license, the
They'll go back
history
and
is
look,
pulled. We
yeah.
would see that there had been a prior complaint. I don't know that that requires flagging. Can you all tell me? I thought we could only flag when there's actually a license file to
That's
flag.
correct.
But if there is a subsequent complaint, we do look up the history when we present it, so this would show up as a previous complaint that we could then look at to see.
He doesn't have a license yet.
It's an unlicensed. But if we received another complaint of unlicensed activity, we would see that this one had been there, and that would be, of course, something that you all would be aware of whenever you considered anything subsequently.
All right, do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion, we close.
Go with legal's recommendation.
Yes, sir.
Do we hear a second?
I say.
All in favor? Number 12.
12-2011-020271. This was originally presented at the April 2012 meeting. The complainant alleges that the firm for which respondent is the principal auctioneer gave complainant a worthless check for complainant's vehicles, which were sold at auction, held by respondent's firm. Additionally, the complainant alleges that complainant has several vehicles which were inside the lock gate of respondent's firm, which were taken there to be sold, and complainant cannot retrieve. Finally, complainant alleges that complainant has vehicles purchased and paid in full, which respondent's firm will not provide the titles. Respondent submitted no response, and a certified letter containing the complaint was returned as unable to forward. There are multiple complaints against respondent's firm, which are currently authorized for formal hearing. The recommendation at that time was authorized for formal hearing, and the decision was that the commission voted to accept legal's recommendation. The matter was then forwarded to be set for a formal hearing. The litigation attorney has obtained information that respondent is incarcerated and will remain so for a lengthy period of time. Further, respondent's license expired in 2012 and passed the 2-month period within which Section 62-19-111J allows licensees to renew following expiration of the license. The complaints against respondent's firm were also closed and flagged by vote of the commission due to expiration of the firm's licenses and the incarceration of the non-auctioneer owner of that firm. Therefore, the new recommendation is to close and flag this individual's file.
Do we have a motion?
I'll add, this gentleman won't be available for any formal hearing for quite some time. He or his co, we've already brought before the commission, who owned the firm. He is in the federal penitentiary. They both are in the federal penitentiary.
I will make a motion to follow legal's recommendation. Then after this, I want to ask a question about it. Okay?
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to go with legal's recommendation. Do we have a second? Or would you like to ask a question before the second?
You could put one other thing in there, that we send back to these people and tell them that we have no jurisdiction over other than his license been turned in now. Explain it to them why we can't do anything.
To the complainants?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we would.
Yeah, probably tell him where he's at.
Don't they get a letter? Or
They get one, but it just says the board's decision. It doesn't go into.
Well, that's a good idea.
That is a good idea.
I'll change my motion. Okay? I make a motion that we take legal advice to close and flag. Is that it? Close and flag. And also send a letter of explanation to the complainant. How's that?
Second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Now, you have something else you wanted to add, Howard?
Well, I probably better not. I'll put myself in a bad position.
Was it, Julie?
That's it for that. Yes. Do you all want to discuss rules, or do we want to wait until Commissioner Morris is back? Last meeting, he had said he was going to review before this meeting and wanted to participate in the discussion. He's not here. We can go ahead and discuss. We can discuss when he's back.
I think if there's anything that we've got on our mind, we could go ahead and discuss it now, and
I'd like to do a little discussing. I'd rather him be here and we make decisions.
Okay.
I agree.
That's what I guess thought. We can, of course, discuss it, but I thought we might want to at least revisit some of this when he is back before we move to the next step.
Well, I'd like to take about another 10-minute bathroom break before we
Okay.
start discussing rules, because there's no telling where this is going.
Let's get some air.
It is hot.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you,
Well, the only thing is she showed me that. I thought I'd done hit that book 3 times and couldn't get that.
All right. Commissioner Alexander, I believe you had a couple of points you might want to bring
Yeah,
up.
one
about
of them was about why I am really against changing the name of our sponsor on the license on a non-licensed auctioneer firm. And it's almost proved right here. Right now.
Yep.
When everybody was voting, nobody really knew who was in charge of this, who was supposed to be in charge. The way I see this, that the person that there was an unlicensed license, a gallery license. Well, it doesn't matter if he is selling 40%. He could have been selling 60% of their stuff. And I'm not sure I know where this is, but I've heard of some things that are going on like this, and it's been going on for years. The thing is, he could have sold 60% of the items and 40% of the value been in the other people's one item. But the way I see it, if I read your drawing right, and I think you've done a good job, the respondent up here is the original auctioneer and the owner of the firm.
Respondent 3 is just a firm.
Huh?
Respondent 3 is just a licensed firm.
You can't be a firm. That's the name of a company. You can't be a firm unless you're a licensed auctioneer and a licensed firm. So that should say licensed firm and owner. You can't be a licensed firm unless you're
An auctioneer.
a licensed auctioneer, period. Unless you're a non-auctioneer firm that is sponsored by a licensed auctioneer.
Well, doesn't number 2 cover that?
Well, but what it is, the way I see it, there's another person involved at number 1. I mean, this one up here has appointed another auctioneer in his firm to be the principal.
That's respondent 2.
That's respondent 2.
Yes, sir.
Well, nothing was done about, now, respondent number 2, from what this drawing said, went to all, and what that letter said, went to all these auctions.
Yes, sir.
Huh?
He supervised auctioneering.
He supervised them, it's supposedly. But to say that he doesn't know whether they're supposed to have a license or not is ridiculous. His boss and him both know if you're going to run a gallery, you've got to have a license, period. I mean, it's not like they just started. Now, the apprentice might not have known that, but I guarantee if he just taken his test, he knew it. Don't y'all teach? I think they teach that in all the classes. So right there, there's nobody really in charge of that. And then when even the investigator couldn't get the records, that was in there the first go-round. I think I made the motion to send it out and see. He still never supplied the records.
The records weren't given to the investigator over there.
That's right. So the next time the state comes down there and tells me to pull 5 contracts and all, what if I say they're in the warehouse? I don't want to go get them. They check me almost every year now. And they say, I want to see 5 contracts, and I want to see your records, and I want to see this. If they had a question, they want to look at my checkbook. I have to take the deposit book, the checkbook, and the other, and show them all that. And they got to be in balance. They look at my escrow sheet, see they're in balance. So right here is a prime example as who is sponsoring who here. But it was just dismissed and said, well, they just didn't know. And that's ridiculous. They did know. Every one of them knew they're supposed to have a license. But they escaped the thing, which doesn't matter to me. Regardless who it is, I don't know who it is, but when you sign on for a non-auctioneer firm to get a license, you must be sponsored by a licensed auctioneer. And what's going to happen when we change this name, there'll be nobody in charge of those firms because you'll never be able to prove who it is. They'll say, oh, I got a principal auctioneer. And the next time we have a problem, they'll go right back to that section. I think we'll take that section out of the law that says they gotta have a principal auctioneer in there. You know, we let the other, where there was a big problem, slip away because they did have a principal auctioneer. It wasn't a sponsoring auctioneer. The firm had no sponsor. So what I'm saying, that's why I'm dead set against the other, but I mean, if that's what everybody wants to do, it's fine. But we'll never know who's controlled. We don't know, we didn't know who's controlled right there.
I think the problem that I've had with having the rule worded as sponsor is because our statute doesn't, our licensing statute for licensing a non-auctioneer owned firm does not reference the requirement of a sponsor in here. It just states that there's required to be a principal, which Donna keeps on record.
No. It says you got to be sponsored. I'll have to find it. I got it marked in the book at home. It says you have to have a sponsor and auctioneer. You cannot have a principal auctioneer till you get a sponsor to get a non-auctioneer firm license. That's the way it's been forever. Now maybe the law needs clarifying, but if it do, that's all we need. I'm only talking about a non-auctioneer firm. That's what I'm talking about. You cannot have a non-auctioneer firm license if you don't have a sponsoring auctioneer.
That is true.
It's been that way ever since this thing was started. Now maybe we need to clarify it more, but whenever that happens, everybody just
A non-auctioneer firm's got to have an auctioneer.
Well, they do, but
It's-
what this
Gotta
is
have
going
a
to
sponsor
say,
and
this
auctioneer.
other's going to say they just have to have a principal auctioneer. This new rule we're going to put out, which is going to be a
The
principal
reason I worded it that way is because that's the way the licensing statute appears to be worded. I was trying to mimic 62, 19, 111, the licensing provisions. And it says
Okay,
that
go over to the rules in 160-0105, publication name and all. It says there that it must include the name of its sponsoring auctioneer, and the auctioneer shall attend all auction sales. We put that in to be sure that the sponsoring auctioneer was in place. It was already in place, but that was supposed to define it. And it went about defining it till year before last, all the years. About having a non-auctioneer had to have a sponsor.
Well,
And then your sponsoring auctioneer could be your principal, but it didn't have to be.
We do require the non-auctioneer owned firm applicant to name a person who is going to be their sponsor, and he or she has to take a 30-hour course and take the test for that.
Yeah,
it's called
but
a
that's-
principal.
No, it's
Well,
not called a principal, it's called
in
a
our-
sponsor. Now, it's gotten changed in the last
not in
year.
the statute.
Not in the statute is what
It
I'm
refers
saying.
to it as a principal
Well,
in the
I
statute.
think what you're saying in the statute, the only place you use a sponsor is a principal auction sponsor and apprentice.
Right, and even though the rule says sponsoring, when we're sending rules, we've got some rules hung up at the AG's office right now for real estate. They are being very exact about statutory authority, and if we start requiring a sponsoring auctioneer that they can't look in the statute and see where one is required, I don't know, but it could get hung up.
It worked all these years. What's the problem? It's just come up in the last 2 years. Back all these times up until then, at one time you could, when we set up the non-auctioneer firm, before then, to get that, you had to own part of that company. So all that's being done away with, which
I
that's
thought
been
you still
pretty
did.
much. Huh?
I thought you did still had to be part of it.
Well, they're not. They're going by corporations and everything else. But that's just something, unless we define what the principal auctioneer, what they're obligated to do in this, unless we put their duties that they sponsor that firm and they have to be the one that's in trouble if something happens. If you want to define that, I have no problem. If you don't, I'd rather see it left alone myself.
This came up because we had a lot of people calling asking about being, Donna, did we not have a lot of inquiries about whether or not a person could be a sponsor for several different firms or
A principal of more than one firm.
a principal of one or more firms?
Yes, we have had that question lots of times.
And then we decided that it would be beneficial to clarify
Yes.
what the rules state as to.
Because we do have some licensed auctioneers who serve as the principal for more than one firm. And usually you find that when it's a real estate firm.
That's exactly right, because they're non-auctioneers, a lot of them.
Yes, a lot of them.
Non-auctioneers, so they want a free way to get in.
Right.
And so the question became, because the terms principal and sponsor were being kind of intermingled,
Yes.
we decided, or that we thought, that clarifying these terms, because the statute uses the term sponsor where it's talking about
Apprentices, that's correct.
apprentices having a sponsor. But the firms have to have a principal.
That's the way it's read, and that's been going on, Mr. Alexander. You remember since I've been on board, and when Mr. Wayne Pugh and Steve
That's when it
Myshak,
changed.
that was
That
in
was-
9 and 10.
That was
when it changed.
That's the day it changed.
Yeah,
That is the
because, as Mark says, there's the only way I can find in these laws and rules, and as Mark said, that talks about a sponsor is when it refers to apprentices. Apprentices have to have a sponsor, and firms have to have a principal. And if it's a non-auctioneer owned firm, we refer to that person as a principal who's taken the test and passed, done the 30 hours.
You refer to the non-auctioneer as a principal.
Yes.
The licensed, or the licensed auctioneer who is the principal for it.
Yes, okay, the licensed auctioneer of the non-owner auction firm.
Well, when this all started coming up, we had people that was running auction barns, was running auction houses. This was even before the gallery auction. And they would retire and quit and sell out, and there was nobody. They were still sponsoring and were on other people's license and responsible for it that they didn't know they were. They were that. And that's where.
Well, the reason this came up to begin with was to make these illegal auction companies legal, so they, to help them have a Saturday night auction and be legal, because some of them were out in the country didn't have auctioneers.
Right.
But it's getting out of hand.
Like your antique store, where they just sell antiques. But once a month, they want to have an auction there of things they can't unload. So they'll get a gallery license, and they will bring in a sponsor.
A principal, it calls it.
Yes.
Yeah, but go to this right here. See what you're saying about the principal is not in where a non-auction firm is. You're reading the way I see it from page 8 in the law. 8. A person who desires a license for a firm shall submit an application to the commission on the prescribed form. A firm license must be issued in the name of the firm with a specific person acting as principal and holder of a valid auctioneer's license. It doesn't mention no apprentice license. You've got to have a valid auctioneer's license. The application shall be accompanied by a refundable absence. That does not say a word about a non-owned firm. That has nothing to do with a non-owned firm.
It doesn't, but it also doesn't say that principal has to be the owner.
Huh?
It doesn't say that the principal has to be an owner.
I
It
know
says,
that, but for years they had to be. Might not have said it, but they had to be. But I'm not saying that's wrong. Now, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying what you're quoting here has nothing to do with a non-owned auctioneer firm. That rule doesn't, that law didn't apply to that. Because at that time when that was written, there was not a non-auctioneer owned firm. You go back and check your dates. I think I'm right on that.
Same thing apply to a gallery?
Gallery didn't exist that
I
time.
know, but are you looking at that you just read as applying also to a gallery?
Nope. The gallery law come along lots of years later than this come along. And see, that's what I was talking about this over here. In denial revoking a license by the commission said, accepting Dave for consideration as an apprentice auctioneer for the performance of any of the acts specified in this chapter from any person except the licensed employer auctioneer. Of course, when the gallery came along, if a person got a gallery license, then they could do that, even if they're an apprentice. But this other person that had an apprentice license couldn't do that because he had no gallery license. So he was in direct violation.
But you don't have to be an apprentice or an auctioneer to have a gallery license.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
But he didn't have that, so he was completely wrong.
Okay.
Huh? But having said that, the only other thing I want to bring up is this is really going to stir up a hornet's nest, but I think we should apply for this because I was on the Neola meeting y'all sent, listened to that. It's about an hour and a half or 2 hours and a half long. There are lots of states are beginning to try to change this law about online auctions. Texas is going right into the middle of it now, the way I understood it. They're going to try to change their law. They say they've been meeting with Walmart and a lot of other folks. However, I don't think we can change ours now, but I do think we can make a rule. That law, the way I read it, says that they are not, no one is required to have a license if I have a timed event with a specified time. I'd like to see us put in our rules that a lot of these online auctions right now, if somebody bids in the last 5 or 10 minutes, they extend their sale, 5, 10, 15. I'd like us to put in a rule that says if a timed auction extends itself, it comes under the license, the coverage of the Auctioneer Commission, and you got to be licensed.
So in the sense, if it says it's going to be over at noon, but if a bid comes in at 11:55 that kicks that time
And
to
it's not-
12:05, it's no longer
Exactly.
timed under our.
Exactly.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I was
And I
understanding.
can probably work on getting the right terminology for that. But, and I agree with Marvin 100%. I mean, there's a lot of internet auction companies out there that are licensed by us, but that are auctioneers, that have got an auctioneer's license and the whole bit, and they're out there doing what they're supposed to do. And
I don't know if I've seen one.
I know a couple
yeah,
of them.
they
There's
just
several
sit
of them
down
that's
and,
doing what
you
they're
know,
supposed. I'm talking about
they're
they're licensed auctioneers that are internet auctions and doing what they're supposed to do.
But they still
And
do
it-
that time frame.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But they got licenses, and
Yeah,
just
right.
like me and you do.
I'm just saying.
But then you take, there's a bunch of fly-by-nights, real estate agents, whatever, that haven't got no kind of license or nothing, that's doing the very same thing. And, you know, people will call me about it, and I'll say, well, I'm sorry, we can't do nothing.
If
But
it extends
I think
itself,
it extends
we
itself.
should be able to govern it.
And I've talked to a couple of those.
Does that
The-
come up in penny auctions a lot? Is that a typical?
Huh?
Is that a penny auction? Would that be?
I don't know. I'm not talking about penny auction. I'm talking about there's people that's selling millions of dollars worth of antiques and everything.
Oh,
else
houses and everything else.
over the internet here. And now if it's a timed auction and it goes from 12 to 1 and it stops, that's fine. But if it extends itself, then they need an auctioneer's license.
Because this was, of course, everybody knows, this was an eBay deal. This is how it got started. I mean, what I understand, eBay, when a sale's over, it's over. It don't extend itself or nothing. But most of these other ones that where these people, like Marvin's talking about, licensed and unlicensed, have got a program to where, like you said, if they bid it 11:55, it extends to 12:05 or 12:10 or whatever.
Well, there was a house I was bidding on, and it was supposed to be over at 12 o'clock. And at 11, from 11:30 to about 1 minute till 12, I had the house, you know. And then somebody bid $500 more, and they extended the auction for 15 minutes. And I bid again, then they extended it for another 15 minutes. I didn't bid.
Well, see, to me, that's not a time limit at all.
So in a sense, what it would need to say is, maybe reference the extension, but if any time listing is extended past the fixed time, then it comes under the purview of the Auctioneer Commission and requires licensure.
Right.
That's right.
Okay, I can work up some language for that for next month
That'd be great.
as a discussion. I'll try to put it in, if you have any, I think you said you were gonna look in to see how it should be worded. If you
Yeah,
wanna
I'll
send that
email
to
you
Donna,
something,
then she
or
can forward it
send
on
it
to
to
me,
Donna.
or
Yeah, I'll work on
I
that.
can try to work a starting point up, or we can
Yeah.
discuss it next month. You can bring what you've got next
That'd
month,
be
and
good.
we can try to improve upon it.
To have an online auction, do you have to be an auctioneer?
If
To
it's,
do an online auction, do you have to be an auctioneer?
Timed one.
it has to be a fixed price or timed online auction without a simulcast in order to fall under the exemption. It can't just be any. You can't be holding a live auction one place and let people bid online and it be exempt. And it's got to be fixed price or time.
Just, let's assume that me and you are gonna go down here to Shawnee's and eat lunch in a few minutes, and while we're sitting there, you say, boy, I'd like to sell my car at my house. And I say, well, why don't you put it online? So you can put your house and your car online and on the auction. You don't have to be an auctioneer.
That's right.
So how are you gonna enforce it?
Well, if it's, as I understand it, this isn't me auctioning my own car on there. This is me auctioning cars for someone else and letting the time extend.
Well, I'm saying,
It's my own property. If I go take my own personal automobile and do it, I'm not.
You're exempt anyway, because it's your property.
I'm not getting paid for it. I mean, it's my own car, but I think what Commissioner Alexander is contemplating is these businesses that are doing it for other people and then letting that time creep up over the fixed time or the stated time for the auction.
Well, I think it's a good idea if we can control it.
I mean, there's a ton of real estate agents out there right now, and people that aren't real estate agents, that aren't licensed at all, that are advertising auction, like, internet auction. Just blatant internet auction. And it's not a timed event like what is described in our law. So I'd love to be able to bust in for some kind of unlicensed activity or something. And there's a whole bunch of licensees that would too.
Well, if it's not a timed event, what is it? Are they bidding
It
live right
No,
off?
it extends. It extends, like what Marvin was talking about.
It looks like a timed listing, but then it doesn't.
Oh, they
end
don't
up
care.
being
They just
one.
think it's on the internet and they can do whatever they want to do.
It says
And
it sells
which to
over
this
the
point they
website
have.
or whatever,
Right, but they, in reality, extended is
If
what
somebody
they're.
will bid, they'll extend it.
We would just, if it came down to where we had a complaint on that, we'd have to have something showing that it did get extended, because I think, their advertisements are gonna say from 10 to 12. We'd have to have, I think what you were asking to enforce it, we'd have to have something to show that it was extended.
Well, we just have to investigate it.
oh,
and find
they're
out.
they're gonna, yeah, they're gonna publish that, that you can bid right on.
I have them sent to me quite often from other auctioneers, emailing a complaint to me about this very thing, and I've been sending back to them, I'm sorry, it's an internet deal, we can't do nothing about it, Maybe when I get the next one, I'll forward it to Miss Hancock and see what happens. And that might get the fight started.
It'll happen. You send it to me.
That might get the fight started.
I want to go back to what Marvin said earlier about dropping out the principal auctioneer. Are you serious about that? Just
I never
dropping
said,
that?
I didn't say drop anything out. I said I'd just rather see the law like it is now than to go back and change it to say where a non-auctioneer firm just have principal auctioneer. Now, see, the way I see this, if I'm reading this over on page 8, a non-auctioneer firm license never came into being. That rule started back in 2001. Isn't that what it says, Julie?
Which rule?
Page 8 under the rules.
I don't have the same.
Oh,
I have my own Is it back here?
I can tell you what it is. It's 160-01-16.
Looks like it was,
Non-auctioneer?
that's the effective date of that.
Huh?
The effective date is May 14th, 2001.
So when you go back over here to this other, what was that one that I was saying a while ago that didn't apply? What was the number?
Oh, 111H1. That rule, it looks like, was last amended in 2008.
What was?
111, that's the whole statute. I can't tell, it's got the history. It looks like that statute,
But the only thing
111.
I'm saying, this here didn't expand. We didn't expand the rule on that number H, did we?
You mean the statute?
Yeah, we didn't. That wasn't what that was put in there for, to change that statute. The way I see it.
I think if you could come up with a definition of what a principal is and what a sponsoring auctioneer is, it would help clarify.
I agree 100%. I'd be 100%
Because there's
for
not
that.
definitions for either one of them
You know.
anywhere.
Maybe we could just define them and leave it alone.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Just define what each one's supposed to do and put it in black and white.
Well, let's start with the principal auctioneer. What do you think the definition of a principal is?
He's the auctioneer that's in the head of that firm, the way I read this, isn't that right?
Principal auctioneer is the owner of the, wasn't that, well,
Yeah, but we're talking about on a non-auctioneer firm.
yeah.
Just your
Evidently,
firm.
we don't have any problem with the other. Everybody knows you've got to have a principal auctioneer.
Well, but there's no definition of what.
Okay?
That is.
See, right here, the way I see, and I wonder about this, did y'all look and see that whether this guy, whoever on this farm, or whoever this lady
He's a principal.
is the,
He's the principal.
I ain't what I read this.
Yeah.
This was a non-auctioneer.
It says principal.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, the principal is
Susan
respondent
Susan
3.
says that the apprentice that owns it took the non-auctioneer education to be a non-auctioneer owner, and there is a principal, a license.
Wait, just a minute. Now, state that again.
The apprentice who owns that firm applied for a firm as a non-auctioneer
Where
owner.
in this book?
Designated the sponsor as
Where in this book does you see that that's legal? I guess I'm wrong about
It
that.
says the applicant under H1, subsection B underneath that says the applicant, if not a holder of a principal auctioneer's license, has completed 30 hours rigorous classroom instruction in an auctioneering related subject approved by the commission.
I got to catch up with you. Where are you at?
6219-111 H1B is what states that.
6211.
Well, first that should say owner of an auctioneer.
So you got an apprentice owning a non-auctioneer farm.
It doesn't say that they can do that.
They can't be a principal.
Apprentice cannot auction a firm.
They're not.
He's not the
There's an
principal.
auctioneer serving as the principal. The apprentice is the non-auctioneer owner, and there is a principal, a licensed auctioneer listed as the principal for the firm.
Who is also that auctioneer's
An
sponsor.
apprentice auctioneer can have a,
Non-auctioneer farm. You
Yes.
gotta remember, that's a non-auctioneer farm.
But you just, in this here, you say the respondent number 5 and respondent number 4. You see that? Huh?
I understand.
All right, what I want to know, you got a respondent up here as the firm.
Yes, sir.
But and that right down here, you say the principal is respondent number 3. This is George.
No,
up
he's
here.
the owner. The respondent number 2 is listed as the principal for respondent number 3.
Yeah, he's a principal and also the sponsor of the apprentices 4 and 5.
Yes, he's listed, he's a licensed auctioneer who is listed as the principal for this licensed firm where the auctioneer is the non-auctioneer owner. It has a principal though.
And the apprentice had to do the 30-hour course for businesses and pass the non-owner auctioneer exam.
Rigorously.
They have a non-owner auctioneer?
Yeah, this is,
Who does? Which one is it?
Respondent 3.
Respondent 3
is a non-auctioneer owned firm.
is a non-auctioneer owned firm owned by an apprentice who passed the test and took the 30 hours and also named a principal auctioneer
who is responded to.
who is
Correct.
respondent 2.
And it says in the statute, the examination for firm license shall be blah, 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 except that a non-auctioneer applying for a firm license shall not be required to take the oral part of the auctioneer test. So they're taking the same exam as an auctioneer, and it's in the statute that we offer that test for non-auctioneer.
The oil farm mowing.
Some people are apprentices for 10 or 15 years. Some of them,
For life.
yeah, stay apprentices that long, but yet they want to own a firm and hire somebody to be the principal. I don't know why.
Well, I think let's work on ourselves, maybe between now and the next meeting, definitions for principal and sponsor. I think that would help.
As long as you get defined right.
I think that would help.
And always look to the statute supporting your,
Definition.
yes, yes.
Do you have any?
Well, if you was gonna make a report to us like this, we should know if this is a non-owned auctioneer firm.
I'm sorry.
I mean, from the beginning, I'm not talking about your now. I'm talking about that has never surfaced in that I've seen. You know, it made a lot of difference. Because there's a different set of rules the way I see it. That's all I have.
Howard, did you have anything you wanted to bring up before we adjourn?
Well, we gotta go over here.
Oh, well, we're not, I mean, no. Okay, okay, just calm down. Everything's gonna be all right.
Go ahead.
I got the cart before the horse. Conflict of interest statements. Did everyone sign theirs? I did mine.
Good. You done yours?
You bought.
Conflict of
Did you do your conflict of interest statement? It was in the front of your book, Harry.
Whose all do you have?
I signed everything.
I
they
have
gave me.
everybody's.
You have one?
You have everybody's
Everybody
signature?
but Jeff.
She has everybody but Jeff's.
Okay.
Ma'am, I signed it.
Okay.
Complaint, comparison, report.
Yes, that's
Ms.
under
Hancock.
tab 6. You'll see that the top grid, that's how we get there, is from February 28th of last year. The bottom grid is February 1st of this year, and we had each year exactly 61 pending complaints. I keep telling everybody that when those 37 or so complaints against that one company fall off of here, our numbers will look great, but that hasn't happened yet. So, and we're still about the same, 79% over the 180-day benchmark. We try to resolve these in last year, 80% this year. So, not much improvement because of those 37 slowing us down and making our numbers look bad.
Well, actually, it is a lot of improvement. It's, I mean, you factor those out. Anybody have any
Yeah.
questions or comments on that?
What is our status on that?
37.
It's back in Chancery Court. And was there a date that had been?
Well, there was a motion or a plea to throw it out, and the judge wouldn't dismiss it.
He set it for hearing.
Set it for hearing, and it's April
It's in
something.
April that the judge is going to hear
The
the
ruling on
case,
it.
make a ruling. So it could come back.
But I mean, is that a ruling on our,
That's a ruling on that's a ruling on our appeal
Well,
that
that
was thrown out.
ALJ.
Dismissed. The ALJ dismissed it. And a ruling on their appeal, was that from their appeal, we both, I can't remember what the issue was that they appealed on. Adrian's still handling this, and so that's why I'm.
Expert
They
witness.
wanted the board's decision thrown out.
Right, and we have appealed to the ALJ
ALJ.
dismissing it.
And now they're gonna hear both of them, I
Yeah,
guess.
and I think they combined them in Chancellor Perkins, I believe it is.
Well, will they get those folks up there that lost their money?
No.
Probably not. I think they're just ruling on what the ALJ did and then what he asked them to do and
I
what-
still haven't got over that.
Yeah.
So really, they could get all this money from these folks and still have a license.
Well, the
No.
license
Oh, they hadn't had a license for
expired
expired.
a long time ago.
So he's not licensed. He would have to come back before the commission to renew or reapply.
Well, why are we still fooling with all these cases?
Well, that's the issue,
Good
but
point.
we don't want to dismiss them before the chancellor. You run the risk of if the commission dismisses them, the chancellor could go,
Just
well,
throw it
this-
out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This isn't even a point anymore.
Oh, okay, I got you.
The question is moot,
Right.
so
Yeah.
you don't want to do that
Okay.
before
Budget
the chancellor
report.
makes a ruling.
Budget reports under tab 7. Starts out, the first page there is your expenditure report. At the top of the page, you'll see the 3 years I've given you there to compare to. The shaded column on the right, which is where we are today, through 12/31 of 13. Those are the expenditures from July 1, 2012 to 12/31, 6 months of budget item expenditures. And
What is employee benefits?
that's insurance, whatever,
Insurance.
longevity, all that stuff. Yeah.
Okay.
So grand total for 6 months of $74,683.61 in expenditures. And net revenue, as reported from administration through 12/31/13, is $139,243. Next page over is your revenue report from and where those fees are coming from. And same thing again, you've got 3 years there, comparisons to go by. And the last column is through 12/31 of 13, showing that the majority of your fees so far are from renewals, $61,879. Initial licenses are up for the first 6 months, way up over the entire total of last year. So that's looking better. And then firms and galleries is the second grid down, showing 30,000 in renewals there. And we're about halfway through with applications from the 12,250 total last year. We already have 6,650 for this half of this year. So hopefully it'll be a better year, but we've still got a ways to go. The third page over, I've put both the fees and the expenditures for your education and recovery report on one page. The top block shows your fees that have come in for education and recovery. Again, the 3 years to compare. The last column is through 12/31/12. Bless you. Showing that so far a total of $35,400 in fees for education and recovery has been received. And the bottom block is the expenditures for the education and recovery. $18,000 for that's for your newsletter, and $184 that's state professional services, which is mail outs of your of the newsletter. The brackets there for total expenditures for fiscal year 10 and 11 and 11 and 12, that's just really a minus that was put in there to show, to take that away from the total revenue that comes in and what you've got there at the bottom for the prior fiscal year balance, and then the adjusted balance last year was left $190,085 in there. And then you'll take this year's total receipts minus the expenditures, and I'll give you the bottom line at the end of June.
In that report, some of the people are trying, or one or two states are trying to raise their bond requirements. I think they even had $20,000 per licensee and all, where ours is only 10.
I haven't heard any problems over our bond amount. Have you? Anybody?
I think it's according if you lost that 40, 60,000.
Really?
They do.
As far as,
For
and I don't really need to care right now, but I'd like to know something, because people always ask me at the convention and stuff, because they compare it with the number of real estate licensees and all that, where we stand as far as numbers of licensees as compared to the last couple of years. Is it up, down, about the same?
Well, it was down last year. Everyone. Your renewals were down, your new applications were down, but I haven't really done a study on numbers of licenses. I got your money,
Yeah.
your
Now,
budget.
maybe I'll ask you again between now and the June convention, because they always ask me that at the convention.
I'll give you that, and then last year's report to compare by.
And comparing by, because like, I know the real estate number of renewals has been way down the last couple of years, and people ask about ours, and I never remember to ask before the convention.
Well, remind me when we get ready to go, I'll give you both reports. The only other thing I have, if you don't have any questions about the budget, is to talk to you about the exam contract with our exam provider, contractor, which is PSI Inc., expires June 30th. But there's a provision in the contract that the commission can extend the contract for no more than 1 year at a time, and then for no more than 5 years. So Julie and I talked about this, and we feel like we should ask you if you would like to make a motion or approve extending that contract for another year.
And y'all are more prone, to my way of thinking, to maybe know about the ins and outs of this than we are. Do you have any complaints or from licensees or anything as far as how things are going? Is it smooth? Is it testing? Or
We talked about it. I don't think that we've received any indication that there are any problems.
How many people fail that test?
I don't know that. I haven't done a study on it since we met. You met with PSI and we went over the exam in 2011, and we got some statistics then, but I haven't asked for them yet. I think I believe off the top of my head, at that time it was like 8% fail rate, something like that. It was very low. But I can get those numbers. I'll just get a report for you at the next meeting.
Wendell, have you heard anything from any of your students about the facility, the way they do the test, or anything positive or negative or anything?
Yeah. They just go take the test. Yeah.
How many mix-ups do they have about the papers not being there or they not having them?
Very few.
We haven't had that problem. We had a problem that
At one time
3
we had a
years
little
ago.
problem with that, yeah.
We don't have
That's
that
the reason I
problem.
was asking. Y'all be, like I said, y'all be more prone to know about that than we
I
would.
think the guy that went from ours, they had a problem with it.
Yeah, one of ours did too, didn't they?
Recently?
Can't think when it was, we did last year.
What happened? They lost their paperwork?
Yeah.
I think that's what happened.
You
I'll
sure
have to
that
check
was
and see.
not real estate?
No.
I usually hear about all the
We
problems.
did have a problem a couple of years ago that they identified where they have apparently part-time employees that come in and take the paperwork and then they mail it to us, and they were mailing it to their main office in California. They were sending it to the wrong address, but I haven't heard anything about that in a couple of years. We haven't had that problem.
Without extending the contract, we would have to send out a request on RFP and ask for bid submittals to get a contract again with another vendor.
I mean, just because we extend the contract, that still don't mean we can't go back test again or whatever. And
Does that cost the state or just the applicant?
Applicant. Doesn't cost us. We don't get any money, doesn't cost us any money.
remember we got into it one time and they took all our questions. Remember
They
that?
still don't give the test here.
Mm.
They still
money.
Do they?
I think that would be a big liability that for us to keep and administer the exam and keep tight security on the answers.
Well, I came down here and took my test.
That was how many years ago?
It don't matter, and I thought it was right.
It does matter.
I know that an auction off a chair.
Yeah,
It was
and
fine.
I did too.
that was, probably have to hire another person to send out letters, get letters back, grade the things, proctor.
The big thing, I think a big problem, everybody's gonna fuss about that, is the convenience now. You can take it anywhere in the state.
Yeah,
And,
5 days a week.
I was just kidding.
I don't.
I wouldn't.
Used to grade them, didn't you, Marvin?
Yeah. Give the order.
Well, I would like a decision on this.
I make a motion to extend it for 1 year.
I don't feel comfortable seconding it. I don't have nothing against the testing company, but Jeff, Gary and them not here.
We got the
And
June,
I
don't we?
would like to know, I would like to know how many are failing, and I'd like to know how many times, ask them how many times they've had a mix-up on them papers, because that's ridiculous.
I really haven't heard of any problems. Have you heard of any mix-ups?
Well, they probably don't tell you. They probably just get on the phone.
They just send
Well,
them
I mean,
home.
the applicant would call us usually.
I think the.
No, the applicant
the
probably
department
wouldn't
has-
either.
No,
The applicant's
no,
probably
no.
scared to call.
They're asking for their
I would
voice.
be.
I'd be scared to call you. Auctioneer commission, Lord have mercy.
You're pretty scary.
I've got to do this on my own because they might.
That's why we don't get complaints. I scare them off. All right. All right, so what's the end result here?
End result, I didn't get any for
Come back with a report in March.
it. March.
We have a meeting in March.
Yes.
Okay. Is that soon enough?
If we have to do an RFP, that's really going
Pushing
to
it.
push us on this. But, you know, I checked with Michael Driver, who's speaking with us about contracts. He guides us through contracts, and he did ask for the commission's input. Ultimately, the way I think the authority, it rests with the assistant commissioner, but they do take into consideration what the commission wants to do. So.
Do they have the right to raise the cost of it without our approval now?
It already lays out the costs.
But I mean on a new contract.
It already contemplates the cost for the 2-year extensions within this. It already.
But I mean, can you show us that next time, how much the difference gonna be and what have you?
I don't think it's
To
the
extend
same.
it, it stays
wouldn't
the
change,
same.
it would just
Pardon?
extend.
It just extends, and it lays out the costs, which are the same here.
There would be no changes.
Well, we can still see what, I don't remember what it costs.
It says
we don't have a clue.
$125.
125.
Yes, sir.
All of them.
Yes, sir.
125 for auctioneer.
Yes, sir.
And $125 for the firm license.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And non-owner, auctioneer, firm, all of them. Yeah, the cost of the exam doesn't change. Nothing changes except we just take the contract out another year.
Okay, well, I think we've decided we're gonna wait till tomorrow to decide to do that.
And again, you just want a report from the testing company and on pass-fail ratios and how many times they've had mix-ups over there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
apparently there's been some folks sent home that you ain't heard about, so
Yeah.
I'd like to know about it too.
Sent home because
Papers wasn't right
Papers
or
was
something.
lost. And, you know what, now that I think about it, I think I did have,
I don't think
I
they
did hear
hear
one like
on the
that
ladder
too, where
about
they
it.
sent somebody home because they didn't have, and it was something
well,
that didn't mount nothing.
if they don't have everything, they should be sent home.
Do you
Well,
give the
testing place is
students the
lost.
package to take to the, how's that work? You gotta go get my hours.
The
You give me-
applications are downloadable on the internet through the Auctioneer Commission, but to answer your question, yes, I give them a copy of the PSI manual plus the appropriate applications for which license they're applying for, and the escrow affidavit if it's necessary.
And the address.
And then,
And the address and the telephone.
Website.
Website.
You know,
if I finish
It's
this
on
school,
there.
I can just go, oh yeah, I can just go to the auction and take my test.
yes, when you take your test, then PSI sends us the copy of the application with their photo and proof of having the passed or failed, whatever, and then all the other documents come with it. PSI sends that to us.
Then the applicant just sends us a copy of their pass-fail rate sheet with the license fee.
So they actually, the applicant files all this stuff with PSI, and then PSI sends it to us.
And all the applicant does is pay us.
And that's the problem, because sometimes somebody might go take the exam and they forgot to bring a copy of their high school diploma or their certificate.
Yeah, if they were an apprentice or something. Okay,
All
we'll
right.
wait till March and that's all I have.
All right, do we have any other unfinished business, new business, old business, anything else anybody like to talk about?
Yes, sir. I want to ask a question. First, I want to make a statement. Gun auctions in the state of Tennessee are getting to be serious business. And I'm afraid if people are not aware of the law, that somebody's going to prison and somebody's going to pay a big fine. I believe it was in Maryland that they sentenced an auctioneer to like 5 or 7 years in prison and a big hefty fine. I wonder if we could have something printed up, the rules of what you do to have a gun auction, what the requirements is. And if you would like, you could get the ATF person to come over here, they will, and meet with us and tell us what the law is.
Isn't there a seminar coming up? When, the next
Isn't
next
that
seminar?
gonna be at their
AFT?
education seminar?
Is that an ATF person that's gonna do that?
It is,
Well, but
Was it in the newsletter about the ATF yet?
yes.
Well, we have,
Postcards. We had one in, was it October, in,
Pigeon-
Gatlinburg, Pigeon Forge area?
well,
Pigeon Forge.
but I understand that, and I know what the law is and what the rules are, but the people that don't go attend the commission or to the seminar don't know. And don't you feel like that if we could print out what the rules are or the law is to sell guns at an auction, it might save somebody or be beneficial to them?
I got that from the TBI and I got it from the ATF, and we have that and send it to anybody that asks for it. The directions on auctioning weapons.
The ATF's the one you need to send.
I'm sorry?
Does people ask for it?
Yeah, a lot of people ask for it.
We get a lot of calls about guns.
But that book is so vague. You have a license, don't you? That book is so vague. We don't need the liability of telling them somebody what they can do and what they can't do, because people have a bad habit of telling you what fits their occasion. And the commission doesn't need that liability at all, because I'm telling you, the ATF and TICs right here in Nashville don't agree all the time. They don't, They don't agree.
No.
I mean, they sure don't. And you know, you could have 2 sales and be declared a dealer, and have 10 and not be declared a dealer. It's how they want to interpret and how the circumstances work. I mean, I don't want that liability, but I mean, I think
What liability are you talking about?
if we print something out of this commission, say, here's what you can do, other than sending them just the regular rules and let them decipher it, or either go to this free seminar we're putting on.
Well, that's what we do. We tell them these are not our laws and rules, and they need to call the ATF for further information, but these are the guidelines they sent us, and you interpret it your way.
It's risky.
I don't see where if the auctioneer commission put in a newsletter, or whoever does the newsletter, put in things that you can do and things you can't do. What liability do you have? All you're doing is making a suggestion. I'm not talking about changing the law.
Let me give you a prime example. About 6, 7 years ago, maybe 8 years ago, I was selling guns out of a pawn shop. That license is issued to a specific location. If you move it 1 door away, you'll go to prison if they find out, you and the owner.
That's my point. People
Okay.
don't know that.
All right, here's what happened. I have my sale advertised. Friday afternoon, I get a call about 3 o'clock from somebody here in Nashville, from TICs or whatever they are, said, no, I get a call from my seller. He called me and said, Marvin, I just got a call from Nashville, and they say you can't have this sale tomorrow. And I said, I can have the sale tomorrow. He said, no, they tell me they're going to come prosecute me and you both. And I said, who told you that? And he told me. So I called up here and talked to the gentleman. He said, you can't have that sale. And I said, look, I'm going to bring the guns outside of the door and sell them, carry them right back in the pawn shop, and register them on the same phone and the same 4493s. The guy's license, he's going to do it. All I'm is an agent. I'm going to walk down there. And I said, I know I can do it. I can take them to a motel. And he says, no, you don't know that. I said, I do. I said, I've been to the National Auctioneer Association the last 2 years, and they've had seminars on it, just like you're going to have somebody. They've told us we can do it. He got so mad, he said, well, I'll tell you what you're going to do. He said, just go ahead. We'll come prosecute you Monday morning. And I said, well, I'll tell you one thing. You stop my sale, you're wrong, and I'm going to sue you. He said, you can't sue the state. I said, I might not could sue the state, but I might could sue you for not knowing. Well, oh, he was mad. So I started calling everybody I knew in Washington, D.C., and couldn't find nobody Friday afternoon at 4 o'clock. I mean, I tried John Tanner, I tried some people in the National Association that was working there. About 5 o'clock, I get a call from a man from an ATF down in Alabama. I don't know if I was Marvin Alexander, and I said, yeah. He said, here you having a gun sale tomorrow? And I said, I am. And he said, well, have you got a problem with it? I said, I don't have any problem. I don't have any problem. It's legal. And he said, well, what are you going to do? I told him, I said, I'm going to walk these guns outside of this thing. And I told him up here, I said, my license, he's in the building, he's got part of that parking lot leased. He said, well, that's not the same. And I said, well, look, my license is at Route 2, Martin. I have 13 acres. Where's that license on that 13 acres on the rural account? He said, well, you're different. You're out of town. We can't say it's in your building, but it's got to be on that 13 acres. And I said, okay. Well, then this guy from the ATF told me, and he said, what are you going to do? And I explained to him the same thing. I said, we're going to carry them right back in and register them, just like the man retail. He says, what makes you believe you can do that? And I said, well, I've been to the National Auctioneer Association the last 2 years, and they brought the head of the ATF in there and told us we could do it. He said, I can carry them downtown. I can carry them 20 miles, carry them back to that store, do the paperwork there, and deliver them. He said, who told you that? I said, I don't remember his name, But I know one thing, when y'all burn up all those kids and stuff out at Kirsch, Auctioneer, he was the man that done the talking. He's a man on TV, and I said, you know, when you shot that baby through that door at Ruby Ridge, he was the head they brought up there and had on TV, and this guy said, yes, sir. Said, that was my boss. He's just retired, and he got his job now. And he said, I'm going to let you have that sale if you do it like you do. But said, next time you need a question asked, you write me, and you give me or this office 2 weeks' notice. I don't want to talk to you over the phone about it. I said, I didn't have a problem to start with. Y'all put it out. But see, that's what can happen. I mean, Tix and them don't even agree. In other states, hired in other states, they've been letting them. They bring guns in. They were pre-qualifying buyers. I know several auctioneers, you come up and tell me you want to buy a gun, they'd run me through the FBI right then. They'd say, yeah, you're clean.
Well,
And
I mean,
now-
you know, that was just my suggestion, and if you want to do it, it's fine. If you don't, it's fine. But I'm telling you, they're having gun auctions at armories and gun auctions at places and moving these guns around, and somebody's going to get in trouble, and they are not going to know about it until it's too late.
If we could get some kind of statement from the ATF, but they ain't gonna give. I'm like Llewellyn, they ain't gonna give you nothing. I've got somebody that's been working on. If we could publish that.
Put out a book, but that's what.
Yeah, I know, but I mean just some.
Basically, I think the
Concise
only thing you
statement.
can say is if you're gonna have a gun sale, you need to contact the ATF.
Yeah, but I'm like hired Marvin Both. They like to tell you one thing, it's saying something else the next.
But they're the ones that
There's
prosecute
information
you
we
if
send
they
out.
have a problem, so they're the ones that told you what to do.
That's right. That's the thing I like.
Right.
Because, you know, you can say the Auctioneer Commission said, well, the Auctioneer Commission doesn't enforce these rules.
But I imagine you'll have a deal, Wendell, if somebody didn't come to that, can they send and get a copy of that deal down there?
Oh, definitely.
But now we
I
did
mean,
have a
if-
recent article.
What Howard was
in the
saying, if
newsletter.
anything, I would refer to our website rather than publish something.
Yeah.
Send them to ATF.
Where did you get this?
My brother from TBI sent it to me
The book's on the web.
there's 2 pages there, different.
There was an article in one of the
One
recent
of them.
newsletters on firearm sales.
Yeah, in fact, it was weak.
Huh?
It was weak, the article in the newsletter. Well,
I think anybody having an auction of firearms ought to know what they're doing. I mean, it's scary.
You'd be surprised.
Good grief.
for God, there's a lot of money to be made in selling firearms, and that's,
Yeah, there's
that's
a
what
lot
the
of-
auctioneer's in business for, but it's no difference.
There's a lot of liability too.
Than selling marijuana. There's a lot of money made in selling
They
marijuana,
have auctions for that?
and
California.
there's no rules, so if somebody knew it was against the law, they might not sell it. But whatever, that's my only concern.
You had another something you were going to bring up.
Not at this time.
Beat down. Had enough, huh?
Does anyone have anything else? Wendell, would like to thank you for coming again. I guess you got Russell working. It's cool. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I move.
All in favor, stand up. What I want to know, we need to get a rule passed that whenever you get off commission, you get to keep your iPad.
I don't want to.